Welcome back to Sebring. Still under caution after the problems for the Whelan Corvette with that loose wheel. They're now back on pit lane, having service done, trying to get that car back out into the action. We're looking at the back window of the Chevy pace car and looking at our leader in the GTD category. That's Ben Keating sitting behind the wheel. Great job he's doing today. And there we see the 31 back into the action. And I'm sure right now, Eric Cohen is just trying to feel that car out and tell the team if everything seems okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure even though it was his full course yellow, he's very glad that he's got it to feel it out. You'd rather do it at a moderate pace than you would at full race pace. So, I mean, when you think about it, the closeness of this racing, he was second and now he's 8th, but he's in the race. No damage, perceived damage done at the moment. Sebring can bite back on you later on. You never know. They might have a trouble getting a wheel on later, but you hope not. So at this point, of course, the structure of a yellow flag, this is a long yellow as we like to call it, starts to come in, and the wave bys, Calvin, will start any second.
So pit lane has been open for both the prototype classes and the GT classes, and then there's a final wave by for anyone who's trapped between the safety car and the overall leader of the race. So there's a lot of strategy that the classes and the engineers and the various teams can play to try and take advantage of this situation. So lots going on. Corvette are having a pretty good day. Andrew's in their camp.
Seaman Fisher now had a really good day too, Seaman.
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, it changes to my everyday IndyCar, so it's a lot of fun. The Corvette C7R is really fast and impressive. You know, I drive it just like I drive an IndyCar, so it's a lot of fun. There's a seriously high competition in the GT class. It's fun to be in it. It's fun to be a race car driver and enjoy being part of it. So car feels good. It's a little oversteery for me, to be honest, but I'm dealing with it. And you know, the most important for me is not to leave any scratch on the car.
And how about for next week at St. Pete? You've got to put yourself in a completely different IndyCar mindset.
I'm sorry, I didn't get
Next week, you're in a completely different mindset for IndyCar.
Yeah, you know, I'm actually super excited about next week. I'm excited about the whole season with Team Penske. What a great opportunity for my career. And I really enjoy being teammates with Will Power, Helio Castroneves and Montoya. So looking forward to it. I think we should be strong. Certainly I'm going to have to reset, but that's something I enjoy doing.
Okay, he's going to reset. I'm resetting and sending it down to Jamie Howe.
Well, Jordan Taylor got out of the number 10 machine. Jordan, we saw the brake change take place. What was it like driving a car in the condition it was in?
Well, it's not great. I mean, we've had braking issues all week, and it's just inconsistent. You don't know what kind of brake pedal you're going to get. So a place like Sebring is probably one of the worst places to have something like that over the bumps. So right now we're just having to be easy on the brakes. We can't really attack anything, and with the inconsistency, it makes it tricky with locking up fronts or rears or a right front or a left front. So it's kind of changing every lap. So that's why we're kind of just hanging around right now, trying to stay on the lead lap and making changes every stop to try to figure it out by the end.
One thing we've talked a lot about today is the heat, but when you're having to manage something like the brake pedal, which is more exhausting, the mental side or the physical side?
Yeah, well, it's obviously going to be physical no matter what because of heat, but to have to think about the whole lap, to think about the brakes, and you know, it's on edge in the brake zone everywhere. In the bumps, it's already tough over the bumps, but add on locking up everywhere makes it that much trickier. So mentally it's exhausting, but you know, thankfully we have 3 good drivers, and you know, we'll get it to the end.
Thank you.
Well, we're looking to get back to green here. You can see everyone weaving around. You see the number 10 car just trying to feel everything out, make sure that those rotors and everything are back in the right spot in terms of having a good pedal feel. It's Max Angelelli now behind the wheel of the number 10 machine. So a little bounce back, long way to go, and you can recover from these little temporary hiccups, I think, Justin.
Well, coming up for a third of the race distance, you certainly can. So, of course, when you look at the lots of racing still to come, and every driver and cars out there preparing themselves for the green flag coming any minute.
Now let's have a look at the highlights of hour number 3. Terrific battles up front. How about this one in GT Daytona? Ben Keating in the Dodge Viper SRT, Andy Lally in the number 44 Porsche. They were welded together for the entire hour before Keating finally took advantage.
We talk about surviving the bumps in the road. The Delta Wing hadn't had a great week, and Catherine Lake behind the wheel. Left rear suspension brakes they look like they may be done for the day.
Into hour 4, Ryan Briscoe running in second place in the number 3 Corvette. Spun, thanks in part to a traction control issue in that Corvette C7R.
Yeah, I believe the electronics kicked out, and here we see the 07, the Mazda prototype. Lengthy fix, fuel leak on that race car, but there we see Joel Miller behind the wheel taking the car back into the fray.
Loose wheel, the problem for Eric Curran, who got off into the very dusty grass at trackside. He had to limp the car around. Actually, the repair was surprisingly easy, but he fell from a top 10 position down to 18th. No report on where the loose wheel wound up.
And under that caution period, the number 10 team took advantage of the situation to do a quick brake change on the number 10, but they have gone down one lap, but still sit in the top 6.
And with that, our 4th full course caution of the day is now complete, and we are ready to go racing once again. Green flag is in the air.
Well, by the rules, it's not always the overall leader that has to lead you back to the green, and there you see it. Ben Keating in a GTD machine. This is where it gets hairy as we see those prototype leaders trying to find their way through. Mike Rockenfeller behind the wheel of the number 90 VisitFlorida.com Corvette.
How'd you like to be Ben Keating now with all of those prototypes bearing down on you?
Yeah, he's making his wide Viper very narrow so they could make it there. And it was a good job that the prototypes were on the inside line there. All very, very good driving from everyone concerned. And see a bit of dirt kicking up there. I'm not sure that. I think that was the PC car that actually kicked up the dirt there as they make their way down into turn 7. Such heavy braking here and great overtaking opportunities. And also, you've got to gauge the dynamics of the car around you. You can easily make a little bit of a mistake or misjudge them. And as you saw, a little touch there. It's a lot of action.
This is what the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship is all about. Look at this, 4 classes running together. What a spectacle. So many colors, so many cars. It is awesome.
Wow. A great mix of cars.
93 under braking.
Keep in mind, some of these cars are nose to tail in a fight for position, trying to get around or allow faster cars to come by.
Richard Leeds now behind the wheel of that factory Porsche. They continue to lead. It's actually a Porsche. No, in fact, I think looks like there's been a change there. One of the BMWs are now into the 2nd spot in the GTLM class.
Keep an eye on the clock, upper left of your screen. When we get to 8 hours to go, we'll have reached the 4-hour mark. The first points gathering position in the race for the Tequila Patron North American Endurance Cup.
We're looking at timing and scoring, showing Leeds in front. I think Hendler's grabbed the lead in this Falcon-tired Porsche. I see him ahead of the game there. Coming down this back straightaway, the bright green livery there. Was running a strong 2nd before he turned it over to Wolfie. He's having a good day here.
Boy, and that SRT Viper is right there on top speed on the straightaway as well.
Very quick. The horsepower of that Viper, it just goes down the straight so well. So really, for Leeds, he's just got to... Is Hensler, you said, sorry, is now in the lead as they cross the line. I mean, he needs to hold this, which he looks like he will do probably for the next lap. And
that was tight there. That Viper cuts across the bow of Richard Leeds there. Tight quarters racing right now between the classes.
2 seconds, 1 second, 4-hour mark in the Tequila Patron North American Endurance Cup. The leaders as shown at this point, Mike Rockenfeller in the number 90 VisitFlorida.com Daytona prototype. Andrew Palmer in the number 52 prototype challenge car. Wolf Hensler in the GTLM number 17 Falcon tire machine. And Ben Keating in that number 33 TI Automotive Dodge Viper SRT.
And there's some nice prizes to be awarded. 100 grand up for grabs in the top category at the end of the season. So that's getting everyone's attention.
Yeah, Wolf's team will be very pleased with his little overtaking maneuver on that lap.
Right.
That's, you know, very important. I mean, that really is the little engine that can, that team, isn't it? The way they run at Petit Le Mans, I mean, it's just outstanding. They basically won the championship for Porsche. You know, they incredible contribution. This is so much more than just another Porsche running. These guys, on many occasions, have led the way from the larger Porsche team.
And what a great way to finish the season. 2 years in a row. They won Petit Le Mans, the final ALMS race, and then obviously the last round of last year's championship in the TUDOR Championship. And it's a great way to spend your off-season, strutting your stuff, coming off a victory.
in the Tequila Patron Endurance Cup. They score points: 5 for first, 4 for second, 3 for third, 2 for fourth, 1 for fifth, and every car behind that will do it all again just under 4 hours from now at the 8-hour mark. Let's get down to the pit lane.
Brian Sellers watching on as Wolf Hensler took the lead of this race. What condition is the car in right now, and what changes were made to get there?
Well, right now we're okay. I feel like our pace is pretty good compared to the other cars. Overnight we made some big changes to the suspension side of the car, and it seems like it's helped us in the heat. We still have a long way to go, and I think everyone just kind of playing it smart right now, but we're obviously very happy with where we are.
One thing that we've seen with this program is that the heat seems to play a key role. As the temperature goes up and then it goes back down, what effect do you think that will have on this car?
Well, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you. I mean, the changes we made were to be better at this time of day. I don't think it'll hurt us at night. I think we'll still be good and an improvement from yesterday, but we're just kind of seeing how it changes as we go, and we haven't seemed to drop off as much from this morning to this afternoon as maybe some others have, so hopefully that trend kind of stays true into the night.
And we'll see Brian back in after Wolf. Andrew?
Well, she's just interviewed her husband. Different situation down here between us, Ryan. We're having a super run. How close is this class?
Yeah, it's fun. You know, the competition's so tight. Our Corvette's feeling pretty fast, though. I think we got really good consistency. We've got the speed when we need it, but it's going to be a tough battle towards the end. It's having some pretty good racing out there. Had a little spin, and I just lit the rears up.
Yeah, just stop you there. You watched it in our highlights. You made a very strange face.
Yeah, it was just such a slow speed spin, and we were just in a lot of traffic. I think I just got on the gas a little early while the inside rear was still a bit unloaded on the curb, and just went around, but thankfully no damage. Got back on the road and the car was really fast, so yeah, looking forward to getting back in a little bit later, and we've got to get through this really hot phase of the day right now.
Now, you must be looking forward to Le Mans. One big race on your calendar. What's the situation with Indy 500? Will you be doing that?
Yeah, well, you know, I'd love to do the Indy 500, but
you're available.
You need a car to do it with, so. But no, I'm excited about Le Mans as well. You know, I got some really big races on my plate this year. A lot of quality and not so much quantity, but yeah, if we can add the 500 too, that'd be great.
Thanks very much. Tell you something, guys. That air conditioning works in that car. Not a bead of sweat.
Yeah, those guys look remarkably fresh after a stint or two in those Corvettes, so that system really works, and it's a great advantage to have, Justin.
Yeah, it wasn't really around a few years ago, was it?
I remember interviewing the Corvette team when you were flaked in the garage at Le Mans one year.
Yeah, thanks for that. So do a lot of people, quite miserable.
There's young Andrew Palmer in the PC class leading. Car number 52 leading a trail. He's chased by Chris Cumming and James French in the second and third place cars. We'll take a break and return to Sebring International Raceway.
Welcome back to Sebring. The battle for the lead is heating up here as Christian Fittipaldi in the number 5 Action Express Corvette is putting the heat on Mike Rockenfeller. Just past the 4-hour mark, Tequila Patron North American Endurance Cup points have been awarded. We'll get to that in a moment, but things really starting to settle back in here, JB.
Yeah, I mean, the pace at the front is impressive. These cars are running well. I mean, they're pretty much trouble-free at the front end. I mean, Christian is looking he's silently aggressive, really, behind Rocky there.
Yeah. We're looking at those cup points, and this is the season standing, so that's adding what the team scored at Daytona to the first segment of this race. So in Prototype, it's the number 5 that now leads. Prototype Challenge, the number 54 from Core Autosport. What a run they've been on in this class. In GT Le Mans, it's the number 3 Corvette Racing, and in GT Daytona, the number 93 Viper. Here's what the boys can win. Nice check at the end of the season for 4 of the classes. 100 grand to Prototype and GTLM, and $50,000 to PC and GTD.
Yeah, and of course, you know, it's everybody in the team that normally benefits when there's cash involved. So mechanics, crew chief, every team member likes to, not just the kudos of winning, but also the cash. I have to say, though, as we're watching the front two, you look back to PC. PC is Andrew Palmer in the 52 is actually lying 4th in class right now. So he's only 15 or 20, 18 seconds behind these front runners we're watching right now. So the pace is very fierce in these front few cars. And we picked up Andrew Palmer there. The car looking pretty scar-free right now. And I mean, he's running very quick lap times. It just shows how good these cars are around here. Yeah, he's another bright American prospect. Burst onto the scene last year with only a handful of races under his belt. Immediately won a World Challenge race at Barber last year, and phenomenal talent. And here in PC, he's just doing the North American Endurance Championship, but won at Daytona. We'll see him in action here today, of course, and then at Watkins Glen and Petit Le Mans at the end of the season. So those are the 4 rounds. We had Daytona here at Sebring, then Watkins Glen and Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta that make up the Tequila Patron North American Endurance Cup. Of course, you're not about to make a silly last-ditch overtaking maneuver right now. Christian's probably quite happy just sitting in the wake right now of Rocky as they go through the fast sequence of corners leading to turn 16 onto the back straight there. But he'll also be preparing himself to pounce should there be a small slippage. But I think this number 5 Action Express car has had a little bit more pace potentially underneath the skin here today, so we'll have to wait and see how patient Christian is. Here we're seeing a great battle in the GTD class between the 2 Alex Job cars. Such history here, 9 wins at Sebring over the years, and looking for more here today. Yeah, Mario Farnbacher there in the blue 23 car as we're watching them head down. Of course, watching teammates run close together, as we said to Jens Walter not long ago from Porsche, is a very tidy thing for a team manager sitting on the pit box, but also brings up those few moments of nerves. I mean, those were 2 factory drivers that clouted each other, let alone, you know, two effectively privateer cars running, but with 2 top drivers behind the wheel. So, I mean, these guys aren't about to hit each other, I'm no doubt, but certainly for Alex Job sitting on the pit wall, he's like, guys, just nothing stupid. Well, the key is, and I think talking to Porsche Motorsports the other day about what would you do differently, is like not allow that second car to really be in the mix. When you get to some traffic, give yourself a little bit more breathing room, and they're just too close for comfort. They had to stack up a little bit behind some traffic. That caught them out. And same thing can happen here. If suddenly the 22 car comes up on some traffic and the 23 car of Farnbacher is too close, so it all goes a little bit wrong. Suddenly there's contact between the 2 team cars. But the 23 car has been on fire here this weekend. Mario Farnbacher was sensational here in qualifying yesterday. So we'll have to wait and see how patient he is. He might have a little bit more speed than Lee Keen. I think his patience is about to run out, actually. I think he's going to make a move as you go down into 17 here, if he can pull up alongside the rear wheel. But no, the door was closed, and teammate rules there as they head through 17. Difficult situation for Alex Job because he's got David McNeil, who owns WeatherTech, sitting on the pit box there probably, and you don't want to hear Alex Job say, slow down and let my other car by. So it's a tough role to play for a team owner. Yeah, fast rolling into turn 1 here. Nice line. That was great driving. That was very good by Rocky too. He didn't, sorry, Rocky. Lee Keen did not dispute it as Mario went down on the outside. He's disputing it now though. Yeah. But you know, he knew there's an ebb and flow there. We've seen that 3 or 4 times this race. The outside car take the lead through 1 and then only to lose it again instantly as they head down into 3. Well, I think you can push it. You end up a little bit wide. You may be not able to crack the throttle quite as early, and that guy can tuck it back inside and get the track position to be on the inside for the brake zone for turn 3. So fascinating little battle here. We'll have to see how it shapes up, but another strong car in this class today is the Viper. Andrew's down in pit lane with one of their factory drivers.
Yeah, I'm with Mark Goosens. Now, when you brought the car in, Mark, you were in 3rd place battling with those Porsches. Now we see you're down there in about 8th. You had, I believe there was a violation of some sort.
Yeah, well, we had a pit lane speed violation earlier when Al Carter came into the pits. So I served that one on my first lap after the green. Unfortunately, now we did the driver change back to Al, and he speeded again on pit lane going out. So, you know, we have to serve another penalty. It's still a long race. I mean, we can't afford to have those penalties, especially not since we're trying to get points after the 4 and 8 hour marks. But we still got 1 point, and I think we're still leading for the NAEC. So I think that's the main goal right now for the 93 car. 33 car is we're running for the championship. So, you know, we do the best we can, but we can't keep taking those violations.
Okay, well, of course, Al Carter's quite new into motor racing, and he's still learning. He used to be on the New York in Wall Street, one of those guys in coloured jackets waving his arms about, so this is a bit different.
Yeah, I know. It's all about experience, but you know, it's pretty straightforward. You have to pass the cones there where the pit speed is measured, and you know, maybe you let go of the pit lane speed limiter too soon. I don't know. We'll find out later.
Some hard work to do. Thanks very much. Meanwhile, Al Carter's probably still waving his arms around.
Yeah, there's some frustration there, particularly when you get yourself in a good track position. I mean, effectively, there's a penalty, which is a drive through the pit lane plus a stop and hold for 20 seconds. We'll drive them through the pit lane at the pit lane speed, hopefully. Cost you about 30 seconds. So it's about a 50-second penalty, and they've now had to do it twice. That's the best part of a lap.
Takes a lot of fast driving to regain from that, Calvin.
It certainly will. Well, I'm going to take a quick break. Fascinating action here continues at Sebring. When you come back, you're going to hear the dulcet tones of Bob Varsha, who's been and had his hair done this afternoon.
Back at Sebring International Raceway, where the temperature is approaching 90 degrees as we reach 3 o'clock Eastern Time here at the 63rd running of the Mobil 112 Hours of Sebring, fueled by Fresh from Florida. I'm Bob Varsha. We've had a little bit of a personnel change. Calvin Fish is taking a break. Justin Bell with me up here in the booth. Andrew Marriott and Jamie Howe down in the pit lane. And this is the battle for the overall race lead between the Daytona prototypes of Mike Rockenfeller in the number 90 and Christian Fittipaldi in the 5.
Yeah, Christian has been really pushing. I said silently aggressive in the last segment. I think that's the way I've been reading it. The body language from Christian Fittipaldi in the car is very, you know, I'm right here, mate. Just keep the pressure on. And we've seen very hard running. And I mean, all the way down through all the classes. I mean, right now we're actually looking at Mario Farnbacher, I believe, there, Lee Keen and Andy Lally. It's this train of fast GTD cars all fighting for position every corner by corner, and as we watch them go down into turn 7, I mean, they're making moves, Bob.
Great battle here in GTD too. That's Al Carter in the number 93 Dodge Viper SRT, kind of holding up the parade a bit. Behind him, Mario Farnbacher in the 23, Lee Keen in the 22, Andy Lally in the 44, and Madison Snow just behind, winner of the 21st annual Gores Line Scholarship to a fine young American driver. A lot of benefits flow from that. 21st year, I believe, of the Gores Line Scholarship. Congratulations to John Gores Line and his company for supporting young American racing drivers.
Yeah, as you're watching, this is multi-class racing working itself through. As you see, at least 3 different categories there making their way. As we see one of the leading prototypes make their way. Of course, the Chrome car there. On board with Lee Keen in the 22. I mean, when you see there behind leader 0.77 of a second, that is just a little bit of understeer or a little oversteer from the car in front. And you've already caught him as they head. You can see there, he's very good actually through turn 16 as they head down the Ullman Straight there. But at this point, Bob, with, as we see on the clock, 7 hours 39 left to go, this is a stage of the race where you really want to try and get your drivers to settle into, we always talk about rhythm, but you want them to be aggressive in their rhythm. Right. This is a time to, you can't get complacent, you've got to make space, time up, you've got to stay very in close contact with the group in front, and I think we're seeing that through every class.
You want a quick rhythm.
Yes, quick rhythm, yes. We go through there.
That's particularly a challenge, as we've already heard, when Mark Goossens discussed, oh man, Lee Keen. Yeah, we talk about the track being so difficult. It's also difficult if you get off that track.
Yeah, the marbles off track, the rubber seems to bunch up around here, worse than almost any other track we see. And Andy Lally in front of Lee Keen there. Andy's just, he's such a dominant Porsche driver. He's such a hard guy. I've never seen his pace ever back off at any point in any race, and that's why he's in such demand. And of course, Lee really putting the 22 WeatherTech car through its paces here.
Andy's been around for a while. From my hometown of East Northport, New York, he's also a former NASCAR Sprint Cup Rookie of the Year.
We just watched the 10 go by, I believe, there, and I
think that's the is
Angelelli car in front? Yes, it is. As he weaves his way through. Obviously, after their brake road to change, they've got a little bit of work to do.
Right. So Max Angelelli wants to make up time, but now he has to be patient. That rhythm you were talking about. You cannot get so aggressive while Andy Lally and the other GTD cars are in the fight of their own. You've got to pick your spots. Now, remember that the 22 and 23 are teammates at Alex Job Racing. There's Lee Keen pulling up on the 23, and a little love tap. Just wanted you to know your teammate is right here.
Yeah, and he just got on throttle at his customary point, and the car in front didn't.
Well, the point I was going to make about rhythm, though, particularly in the Pro-Am classes of Prototype Challenge and GT Daytona, is that you'll have professional racing drivers racing along with what we sometimes refer to as gentleman drivers, drivers who do not make their living driving racing cars. They are usually, not always, but usually not as fast as their professional teammates. And so you have to take that into account in your race strategy.
And there are, while there are always exceptions when these drivers make their way up into the big game, over time they become incredibly fast. And we've seen some, Ben Keating, for example, was just so fast in the Viper Challenge that he was a natural to get himself into the top form of sports car racing as soon as the opportunity presented itself. Of course, he puts his whole team together. So, it's a big deal. And we just seen a lead change at the front. I said Christian was looking very sporty, and I just don't think Mike Rockenfeller had anything for him. And it's not a dramatic turn of events. If he can sit there with a tow hook on the back of Fittipaldi, he'll do well just to hold his face. But Christian's car is running absolutely perfectly. It's online. A little earlier we saw it run wide on a few apexes as it was getting up to speed, as everyone was getting used to the car and the changing conditions. But right now, looking from Rocky's car forward, Christian's, he's got the bit between his teeth.
No question about it. One other note on the number 5 car up ahead. They hold the distinction of having completed every racing mile in the admittedly new TUDOR United SportsCar Championship. Through all the races last year, the first race of this year, the Rolex 24 at Daytona back in January, they have not failed to finish a single racing lap. Now we'll see the pass from the 90 on board. Looking for the 5 car to the right. Yes, it is. When we get to lap 150 of this race, assuming the 5 car makes it there, they will complete 10,000 consecutive racing miles, which is quite a feat.
That's quite a feat. Yeah, and you can see how demanding sports car racing is. Some people can't make 100 of those. It's not for lack of preparation.
Right. Just look at the attrition we've seen so far.
Yeah. So as they settle into this very fast pace at the front, to give you an indication, Christian actually ran a 1:54.4 on his last lap time, the lap that he overtook Rocky. And that is, put it in perspective, that's 3 seconds off the pole time, but considerably quicker than anyone else is running at that lap in prototype. So when one of these cars come right, it doesn't really depend on the temperature out there. If the car's working well, the tires are in the right phase of their degradation, you actually can run real quick.
Let's have another look at that pass for the overall race lead. You saw it from on board the 90.
Rocky actually was defending. He made his one move, and then Christian slid down under braking there. That's tight against the wall as you do that. And right now in the middle, Bob, right now, he carries the weight all the way out over the bumps. And I think Rocky thought he could do the up and under there, but not to happen.
That was a pretty spirited defense, I'd have to say. They emphasize in the drivers' meetings, it's okay if you're ahead and you move before the guy behind you does, but if he moves first and you react, that's called blocking, and you'll hear about it from the stewards. We'll be back to Sebring. Welcome back to a sunny and increasingly hot day here at Sebring International Raceway. Temperature 88 degrees and climbing to an expected high of 92 before the sun begins to set in that direction, right over that horizon. And if you've never seen sunset at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, fueled by Fresh from Florida, you have a treat coming, so be sure to stay with us. You're on board the number 25 GTLM class BMW Z4 in the hands of Bill Auberlen, chasing teammate Jens Klingman. in the number 24 car. And speaking of BMW, Andrew Marriott is standing by in the pit lane with a special guest.
Talking of Jens, I've got Jens Marquardt here with me, who's the worldwide boss of BMW Motor Racing. Jens, it's going pretty well for you at the moment. It's just very noisy at the moment. Race is working out pretty well in that big battle with the Corvettes and Porsches.
Yeah, I mean, we're into a third of it now, and it's all very close, all really wheel-to-wheel racing, as everybody hoped for. It's exciting, but 2/3 to go. It's hot right now, so you just got to manage to get through the heat and get yourselves prepared for the last 2 hours when the real race unfolds.
Now, the car, of course, is wearing the 25 and the iconic old BMW livery from 40 years ago. The heritage means a lot to BMW, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's fantastic. I mean, we've got some of the old crew from then, the Cowboys here, working at that time out of Sweet Home, Alabama. Jochen Nerpasch, who was heading everything, is here as well. Striezel and the guys, Brian Redmond. So it's really fantastic. I mean, we celebrated the livery last weekend in Amelia Island, and it's just great to have 40 years of heritage and experience behind the whole thing, because that's what it takes here as well.
And Hans Stuck as well, has he been behaving himself?
Yeah, I mean, he promised last weekend if we would get a very good result here, he would do the yodel for us. So that's what I told the guys the target should be.
Now, we've seen the Z4, or the Z4 as we call it in America, racing out here, but you've got a new machine to replace that in the coming season, I think. Just tell us a bit more about the M6 GT.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we have as a successor car in the development back in Germany, in Munich right now. Working really hard on that one. Obviously the GT3 version first, but also a version to race here in the US. And this is an awful lot of work, and we're really tough on that one for the summer, because we know Daytona is the first race and it's a very tough one. So we got to be ready for that in January next year.
Your other big program, of course, is the DTM. You've dominated it the last couple of years, and that should again be a very tough season.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we've been really quite successful the last 3 years, but the more success you have, the more fierce it becomes as a competition. So we're the hunted ones again with Marco Wittmann, reigning champion, and it's going to be a tough one out there as well.
As always, a pleasure, Jens. Thank you very much, and let you get back to join Bobby Rahal up there.
And thank you, Andrew. They were talking about a yodel from Hans Stuck. That was Hans's typically Bavarian celebration in Victory Lane, and hope we get to hear it. They also mentioned that NASCAR connection when that 3.0 CSL raced in IMSA back in 1975 and 76. The team maintained the race car in Bobby Allison's shops among the Alabama gang in Hueytown, and the car was later driven by a team made up of our old friend and colleague David Hobbs and NASCAR Sprint Cup champion Benny Parsons for a time.
Well, I reckon Mike Rockenfeller, who we just saw, they come in the 90 car. It was a good call. I'm sure they needed to do it then, but they were just about to hit a ton of traffic. And we were watching Christian Fittipaldi have to really work hard to safely negotiate his way through the GT cars in front of him. So that was a good call there, because Christian had to really back off his pace and be very prudent through that traffic. He's obviously clear right now, so he's got the hammer down, because I'm sure they're on a similar fuel window. But that was a good call to bring Mike in, because he didn't have the pace of Christian at that point, and he saved himself the hassle of having to go through those cars.
And you want to get back in, get on fresh tires so that you can get a good outlap, because you can be sure Christian Fittipaldi has the hammer down right now to do the opposite, get the most out of his low fuel load and used up tires to get a great in-lap. Passes the pit entrance that time by.
It's interesting. People have really responded, Bob, to our comments about internal combustion engines and the wonderful noises they make. And I have to say, I won the argument right now, but we're going to take another listen to the sounds of speed from Tequila Patron right now.
That's right. We're reading your tweets. You want it, you got it. Turn up the volume. The siren sounds of Sebring. And while we're on the subject, a lot of us like to stand by the pit wall, shut our eyes, and see if you can guess the car going by just by the sound of its engine note. Out there on the market, you can find probably a CD at this point called Sounds of Sebring, which recalls the Formula One Grand Prix that took place in 1959 here at Sebring, Florida, won by Bruce McLaren, who was then the youngest man ever to win a Grand Prix. He did it only because his teammate, Sir Jack Brabham's car let him down on the very last lap. But there's a collection of basically radio reports, great interviews with guys like Sterling Moss, Jack Brabham, Phil Hill, Bruce McLaren, and so on. And the sound of those engines from Formula One back in the day, it's just music. Check it out.
I am actually going to do that, Bob. Thank you. But I tell you what, there's lots of fans out there right now that also have their eyes closed out on the infield listening to the sounds of these cars. It's just so good. As we watch some replays here, this is the 10 car who's making his way with Max Angelelli behind the wheel. He's trying to get his way back up the front, and he has No. Okay, maybe it is. That was like there's no gap, but I'll make one.
Excuse me, can I play through?
That's great.
Max the Axe at his aggressive best.
Yeah,
GTD car on the right, GTLM car on the left. Prototype is quickest of all. There's the 48 GT Daytona Audi and the 58 GTD Porsche 911 GT
Madison
America.
Snow there getting a little sideways coming off turn 7, effectively the hairpin there, and he's pushing hard. I mean, it's basically Bryce Miller, Madison Snow going at it, and that's a good combination.
Patrick Dempsey was to have driven with that team, but he had to withdraw late in the going. It's the Dempsey Wright Motorsports car, and the colors, the immortal colors of Brumos Porsche. They rode them at Daytona, and they're here as well. Let's get back down to the pit lane now, and Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, well, I'm with a young lady called Kimberly Hendricks, and she is one of the tire people for the Florida.com, visit Florida.com, and you've been in racing all your life, but you've got another story because you're turning out to be a pretty handy racing driver as well, Kim.
Yes, I am.
You've built a car, just tell us about that. You're racing in an SCCA, and I'm told by your dad that you're breaking lap records and winning races.
Yes, that's correct. In February, I broke the track record in SCCA for the ITO class by 3 seconds.
Where was that?
Here at Sebring.
So you know your way around it. Which would you rather do, work on the tires here or be racing out there?
Well, it's both very enjoyable, but I have to say it, I prefer to be out there.
And you also have got big ambitions, haven't you? Does you want to move into Trans Am and then even up to this?
Yes, that is correct. I do want to work my way up the ladder. I want to move into Trans Am and then work my way into this.
Well, we wish you the very best of luck with that. I mean, Dad's just over here with his spin round left. Look, there's Dad. He's pretty proud today. His daughter's been on telly. Kimberly, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, good luck to Kimberly. She obviously has a plan, and that's the way to go about becoming a racing driver, as the number 5 car with Christian Fittipaldi finally gets its service.
Yeah, they look like a no-problem stop. It's very funny. That question Andrew just asked reminded me of one my daughter asked me. She has this habit. She's 7 years old. Tallulah says, "Daddy, would you rather have ice cream or be run over by a truck?" And I'm like, that's a tough one, Tallulah. Those are the questions she comes up. She's very funny.
Oh, boy.
I bet Kimberly would rather be racing out here, because this is the way to go right now in North American racing.
And there are a number of female engineers and crew members up and down the lane. Chase Navarez with the Risi Competizione team. Rossella Manfrenato engineers the Ferrari GT class cars. There are a number of females out here. We talked about Catherine Legg driving earlier. Unfortunately, the Delta Wing is out of the race right now.
And the 01 car, Scott Pruitt behind the wheel right now, is probably due for a pit stop any second. So let's follow him through to the end of this lap, and let's hope he makes pit lane, because his crew are on the wall ready to go. Scott's, this car, and obviously they're in second place right now because of the cycling of pit stops, but Ganassi Racing, they know how to make their way slowly and methodically back up towards the front, and Scott's a good man to trust to do that job.
Back in 1955, the first Ford product of any kind entered in the 12 hours, made an appearance. It was a 55 Thunderbird shared by Fred Shearer and Don Davis. course, drum brakes on the Baby Birds back then. They used up all their brakes early in the race, drove most of the event with partial or no brakes at all, still finished 37th overall, 7th in class, 1955. And here they are, Ford Motor Company, defending champions at Sebring. Jamie.
And Scott Pruitt has stopped the car. He was on the reserve fuel tank on this one, so the team now knows what their limit is under race conditions as well. Doing a driver change, Scott Dixon getting in the car. As he was getting his helmet on, I asked him if the team had told him anything he needs to be aware of under this stint. They said they're still struggling with the balance a bit. The rears are falling off quicker than the front. They're struggling with some understeer. They're still just trying to get that balance right. He himself is concerned with the heat. It's going to keep getting hotter during this stint. Make sure to stay hydrated in his time off. He's already out.
And back into the fray goes Scott Pruitt. We've got another break coming up. We'll take it and return live to Sebring International Raceway. Welcome back to Sebring. You're on board the number 911 Porsche GTLM class car in the hands of Richard Leitz, currently third but headed for a pit stop. As the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, fueled by Fresh from Florida, continues. Quick change of the drink bottle. Tires and fuel. Fire up the engine. Not quite yet, Richard.
Yeah, no spinning the wheels on the jacks, as they were very firmly told in the drivers' meeting yesterday.
Yep.
Car hits the ground, off it goes. That splendid looking RSR looks. It's just magnificent, and of course,
you saw that Michelin tire rolled away. 3 of the 4 classes, Prototype, Prototype Challenge, and GT Daytona, all run on Continental tires. The GTLM class, however, is free, as they say, when it comes to rubber. Lots of Michelins, also the Falcon tires on the number 17 car. Just about anything you could want in sports car racing, you'll find in the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship. Come out to a race. Come say hi to our Fox Sports crew. Number 25 BMW on track. Dirk Werner has now taken over.
yeah, Dirk, you saw him just cinching up his seatbelts as he left. That was by no means doing them up as he left the pit lane. He was just retensioning them. Unfortunately, you can get a penalty if the stewards in the pit lane see you doing your seatbelts up or undoing them too early. And I'm sure that with race control watching our broadcast, if we happen to feature your car on the way out of the pit lane, that isn't too good for you either if you're tightening them up. We have a lot of onboard cameras, and that's a window into the soul of what's going on here as we watch the Aston Martin Gulf colors there heading out onto track. The Falcon Porsches just hit the pit lane. They've been having a very strong run right now. 17 Wolf Hens is actually in the lead as he pulls off the track into his box.
And Wolf will get out of the car. This is a full service stop here. Brian Sellers getting behind the wheel of the car. Fuel going in now, 4 new tires. They're also taking off one of the covers on the windshield. They have 10 tear-offs on that windscreen. That's so that when each driver gets in, they have a clean view looking forward. This track gets very greasy. We see the cars get extremely dirty over the course of the 12 hours. Visibility is important, and that was a very quick already back out.
Thanks, Jamie, and we'd like to welcome back our audience on Fox Sports Racing from NASCAR activities out in Fontana, California. We have just over 7 hours, 10 minutes remaining in this 63rd running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, fueled by Fresh from Florida. Driver change going on in the 17. Meanwhile, Andrew Marriott.
Now I'm down with Mr. Super Cool from California, Billy Oberlin. Not bad for a veteran, Bill. That was a good session.
Yeah, it was good. You know, what's crazy is I'm coming off a fever. I've had a fever for almost 4 days. So just to make sure I was okay, they put me in the peak of the day, hot of the day, and the car's fine. We are not going to try to compete in this temperature. We're going to wait till the sun goes down, then we're going to go after them. And, you know, the BMW North America Z4 GTE is running like a top with the Michelin tires. Remember, IHG Rewards, Club Rewards. Go to an IHG hotel.
Well, he's got the plug in there. Look, he's going to get the sweep next time he pitches up at one of those IHG hotels. Now, Bill, you've been racing a long time, but you're still so motivated.
Yeah, I mean, more than ever. I mean, I love racing is in my soul, It is something that I live for every day. I always wonder when these golfers or when a tennis player goes out, and why do they get non-competitive? I don't know. I think it's the passion. You have to have the passion. I wake up before the alarm clock every weekend loving to be in that race car. And so as long as you got the drive and still want to beat these kids, they're amazing, and they make you a challenge every day. You can do it.
Fantastic words. Thanks, Billy.
Wow, I remember when Bill Arberlin was a kid, and he's right about racing being in his blood. His father Gary was a class winner here at Sebring. Bill also, back in '95, won for the first time here. Lots of interesting things happen, well, every year at Sebring, but certainly years ending in 5 have produced great moments over the years, including 1985 when A.J. Foyt won his last race anywhere here at the 12 Hours.
Holding. Holding. Fuel's done. All clear. All clear.
And away they go. Jan Magnussen has been among the fastest GTLM cars on track. Right now, he was leading the class when he came in. When we get back, I'll tell you where he is now after the stop. Look at that crowded infield here at Sebring International Raceway as we continue with our Fox Sports coverage of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, fueled by Fresh from Florida. One of the world's great motorsports classics. Coming up on 7 hours to go, 131 laps complete by our race leader, Christian Fittipaldi, in the number 5 Mustang sampling Corvette DP. Time for a Mazda mid-race update, and for that, we'll go down to Jamie Howe.
Well, Bob, unfortunately, it's not the best of news, especially for the number 70 from Mazda. They lost oil pressure. They determined that it was an oil pump belt that had broken. The problem was they didn't know if there was any damage done to the internals of the engine when that belt broke. They went through the data, determined that there was. They were going to attempt to replace that belt. That was going to take 3 hours. However, with the damage that was done, they've had to withdraw that entry now from this race. The 07, though, is back out there. They're doing very well considering they did have a fuel cell leak early on, but they repaired that, and now they're back out turning some laps. Andrew?
I've got Colin Brown with me here. Colin, you're right up there in the top 10, but you're not leading the PC class as we expected. What's been the problem?
Yeah, I don't think much of a problem. I think we're just kind of running our process, running our system. It's really hot right now. Car's sliding around quite a bit. You know, I was able to jump out to an early lead in the Core Autosport car, but this is when it gets hot and slick, and I think we're more set up for tonight with the way that our balance will be. So hopefully the racetrack comes to us a little bit, and you know, John Bennett did a great job in the car, did a lot of driving, and we got James Gouet in there now who's doing a good job, and it's gonna be we're kind of setting it up for the end, I hope.
It's been really competitive here, this class, hasn't it?
That's super competitive. I mean, we've got some great teams, really good drivers that we're racing against. I had a lot of fun battling with Martin Plowman there early in the race.
Yeah,
it was so fun. I mean, just great class, really enjoy it, a lot of fun.
Thanks very much. And he's a real winner in this class too.
I should say so, being the reigning class champion along with his car owner, John Bennett. James Gouet in the car right now.
Yeah, I'd love to see, you know, Colin's doing so well in this car with this team, and I mean, it's been, you like to see, he's had such a great career, you know, great opportunities, but it's funny, I think now his maturity is ready to match the talent he's always had. So not that I wish him to ever move out of this team, but I also would like to see him get picked up by a really top front-running prototype team, and I think someone like a Ganassi or Wayne Ted or some of those guys, it'd be nice if one day they gave him a shot to get back in one of their cars, because he's certainly one of the fastest kids out there.
All right, now he's got mirrors full of the 38 of Connor Daly in a battle of 2 prototype challenge cars. Another young driver deserving of a top seat. That's the second driver in a bit, JB. We've heard talk about how we're not planning to push hard in the heat of the day. We're set up for the twilight when the temperatures come down.
Yeah, I think all you can put yourself in a position of is, if you make a mistake now, it's probably going to be a big one. It's hot. Oh, you see the hip checking each other a bit there. That's a pretty Good overtaking maneuver right there.
Attaboy.
That was nice. Connor Daly just made that an attaboy for him. I mean,
Team liked it too, yep.
Yeah, he was pretty decisive there, and James was quite smart in not defending too much. And that's exactly what you said, Bob. People they're pushing, they're making a move. The other guy isn't over defending because it's just not worth it right now. There's no one that says, I mean, you've been reciting history moments throughout these 5 hours so far, but no one says, do you remember on lap 133 when that guy led the race? No one remembers that.
Notice that right rear damage has been there for virtually the last 5 hours.
Yeah.
They have not fixed it at the Performance Tech team for the 38 car. And now Connor, having gotten by, is able to open a little bit of a gap. Let's hear from another of the Prototype Challenge drivers with Jamie.
Yes, it's RSR with Bruno Junqueira. Bruno, I know you're not going to be next in the car, but in the heat of the day, what is important in the PC car to keep in mind?
To keep off trouble, you know, to keep running consistent laps on the lead lap. Our RSR car is very good, and I was able to lap quick and comfortable. Right now, Chris is doing a good job running P2, and just keep out of trouble will be the goal.
It's been a lot of back and forth in this PC category. It's very tight competition. As a driver, how challenging is that?
It's very challenging. Same car, same engine, same tires for everybody. So there is no excuse. It's about drivers and teams. So I think you're doing a good job. You have to be patient because it's a 12-hour race, and you have to be in a good position for the last hour to go for a good position.
If it's about driver and team, what advantage does this setup have, your team?
The setup?
What advantage does your team have?
I think we have 3 good drivers. Chris Cummins has a lot of experience, a very good bronze driver, and Gustavo is a young kid with a lot of speed, a lot of talent. So I think you have a good balance between all the 3 drivers.
Look forward to seeing you back in. Thank you.
Well, that's what you need, even in a so-called Pro-Am category car. You need to have 3 good drivers, each at his own level, hopefully quick enough to make the car a winner.
Yeah, that looks pretty sporty coming up behind them there, doesn't it? With the number 10, Max Angelelli with...
got the 31 behind him.
right
Remember,
behind.
Eric Curran took
right
this
behind
car
him.
off earlier. He had a wheel come off. Had
Yeah.
to limp the car all the way around the racetrack.
Yeah, they certainly didn't let that deter their pace, but
well,
I mean...
we talk about making up laps. Right now, Eric Curran showed 3 laps down to the race leaders. Just 1 lap down to the 7th place car, 6th place car in Daytona, 5th place car in Daytona Prototype, Max Angelelli in the 10 with all the brake problems that the Konica Minolta crew has had. These 2 cars right here.
Yeah, running hard, and yeah, I have to say that Eric Curran is just trying to put some miles under to get the car back up, and another yellow flag and he'll gain another lap, and it won't take much. I mean, that's the way this racing has worked. Some people love it, some people don't. But it means we used to have margins of victory at Daytona and Sebring that were just mind-numbingly big.
Right.
They were like 20-lap wins, which means that for the fans, they saw the lead car just cruise for the last 5 or 6 hours. Right. Now everyone's pushing the whole way to the end, as we've seen. Could see everyone. That's interesting down into turn 7 for me, because you're watching, multi-class overtaking there, and definitely people are really in the groove in this race. We've seen a couple of close calls, but generally everything going well. And of course, as soon as I say that, we're probably going to have an accident. But
right.
It's that's my way of getting something going.
We didn't see a pass of the 31 on the 10, but I think Eric Curran just got by Max Angelelli, which means that the red Whelen, number 31, Corvette DP, is on the same lap as the number 10. So as you say, if a yellow flag comes out, Curran goes all the way around on the wave by. And,
31.
You can get back into it, depending on the position of the leader when the yellow comes out. Into the Le Mans corner onto the back straight. We pick up the Porsche 911, running second in GTLM. Richard Leitz trying to run down Brian Sellers. On board with Brian now as he approaches the long back straight. We'll be back. We are back at hot and steamy Sebring International Raceway here on Fox Sports with round 2 of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship for 2015. Mobil won 12 hours of Sebring, fueled by fresh from Florida. Here is your leader, Christian Fittipaldi, in the number 5 Mustang sampling Corvette Daytona prototype. These guys have had things almost all their own way since the very beginning of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship of the Rolex 24 at Daytona just a year ago. As I mentioned earlier, they have completed every racing mile in the championship over parts of 2 seasons now. The only car that has done that. They are 13 laps away unofficially from reaching the 10,000 racing mile mark, which sounds like a nice round number to me.
Yeah, I mean, right now Christian's fully in sync with this car. It must be handling really well. He's able to push. It's not overall lap time. He's quicker all the time. He's just able to press the advantage every time he's in traffic. He's 8 seconds ahead of Mike Rockenfeller. And I have to, I guess, balance that by saying I don't think Rocky's trying to catch him up. I think if you can just hold a tow hook on the back of the leader and just know you're within striking distance at any minute, because as you said in the last segment, people are trying to are telling us they're trying just to stay in the hunt and save the fighting really for later. But it doesn't mean you're not going to make a mistake. It doesn't mean something's not going to happen. There's no complacency here. That is not at all what we're talking about. It's just trying to balance everything and trying to get into a strong rhythm.
It's judgment is what it is. We've got a beautiful day, a great race. What a better place to introduce the editor of a great magazine with a racing theme coming up. Larry Webster from Road and Track joins us. Larry, welcome.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
I know you've been to the 12 hours before. What are your impressions of this year's edition thus far?
Well, first off, it's such a fantastic crowd. I mean, you really feel like you're at this huge, important event. And you go to this one section, and folks have tiki bars set up, and they got school buses with concert stages, and they're just having a great time, and the racing is fantastic, and it sounds just wonderful. I'm glad to be here.
No question about it. Now, you've got a very special edition of Road and Track coming out shortly. Tell us about it.
That's right. It's be at newsstands in a couple of weeks. That's why I'm sorry I don't have any copies for you yet. But
yeah, well, we'll let it slide.
It's our first motorsports issue, front to back, all racing cars, racing theme, drivers from the past, from the present. This car on the cover is Jim Glickenhaus's dual-purpose sports car. You can race it and drive it on the street, and it's a wild beast. I drove that over in Spain while he's testing it, and
cool.
You know, we just wanted to get the struggle, the blood, the guts, and the glory of motorsports. We did a good piece on the Mazda diesels because they're really struggling, and you know, I think we are in a golden age of road racing, and very few people, I think, recognize that. There's a lot of looking back to the late 60s, early 70s, but if you look what we have right now, we have these GTLM cars. You got Chevy, Ferrari, Porsche, all very recognizable cars battling. You've got Vipers, you've got Audi R8s, and I mean, and these cars are close. It's just brilliant racing.
What do you think, though, also, I mean, obviously, you know me, I'm always involved in the modern car world as well. Equally for our fans, the people you just talked about out there, they don't have to just sit and watch anymore. The road cars that we can buy right now, I think, are at an all-time high over the last 20 years. I think it's amazing.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Do you remember the days when a car was 0 to 60 in under 7 seconds? We went, oh my God. Yeah. Now, so many cars are 4 seconds. And so, yeah, and you can drive them on the track. They're durable, and there's no excuse to not to go out and experience them.
We just saw the number 11 of Chris Cumming, a prototype challenge car that his teammate Bruno Junqueira was talking about earlier, mentioning how strong they were in the driver lineup, how they were looking forward to the twilight, doing well in the race, but the car has just gone behind the wall. We'll have to update what's going on with the RSR prototype challenge car.
So Larry, you got a good finger on it. What often we talk about young kids not really appreciating cars anymore, appreciating racing. Worldwide, there's a declining audience for our sport. But how does it work for you with the magazine? Are you seeing this regeneration because of racing and the road cars? This synergy between like Porsches and Corvettes and the cars they race and the passion for it. That's only a good thing for all of us, right?
I think it's much stronger than people want to give it credit for. Right, it probably isn't as rabid as it was in the early Trans Am days, right, when the cars people were buying were racing. But there's still a lot of strong interest digitally online. The interest in our magazine is growing, so we're taking this all as very positive signs that the next generation is interested in this stuff. And how couldn't they be? It's just wonderful.
Well, I mean, a lot of people think that young people, how can I put this, have fallen out of love with the automobile. They don't look at cars the way their fathers did before them and so on. What's your position on that? Is racing suffering from the fact that the millennial generation is more interested in the internet or whatever else it might happen to be, and perhaps not paying as much attention to motorsports as previous generations?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of theories out there, and the one you hear most often is that they don't need the car to connect with their friends anymore because they're doing it digitally. And that's sort of killed interest in the automobile. But eventually, they need a car. They understand they want to get around. And it still remains to be such a huge status symbol. Look at all the new luxury cars that are selling. So at some point in their lives, people discover them. And I think then they realize, oh, this is this great world. And that's part of one of Road and Track's job, is to make sure every month we're bringing it to them.
Do you have a position on some of the alternative fuels or even Formula E, electric car racing?
You know, I think it's a great experiment. I'm a little bit cautious to see where it goes. I don't know how exciting the racing is. Racing's so visceral, and without the sound and the feel of the engine and the pulse of it coming by, I feel like it's a little bit hard. But, you know, I didn't think Elon Musk was going to make his Model S either. So
yeah, look where he is now.
I was too careful to make predictions like that.
Let's look at the 52. Andrew Palmer leading the prototype challenge class and actually running 5th in the overall standings right now, ahead of some pretty stout full-on prototypes. Max Angelelli among them, Eric Curran in the 31, Scott Sharp in the Tequila Patron ESM #1 ARX as well. Let's get down to Andrew Marriott.
Well, we heard that the RSR car had gone behind the wall. One of the drivers, Gustavo Menendez, with me. Gustavo, do you know what's happened to your car?
Yeah, we've unfortunately ran into a little bit of a gearbox issue right now. We were running really good in contention for the win, obviously, so we're going to try to get it fixed as fast as possible, get back out there and recover what we can.
It's great to see you sports car racing. We saw you at Daytona, but this is not your main program, of course. Just tell us what you're doing in Europe. You've got a chance of winning that European Formula 3 Championship if you get it all together.
Yeah, I'm competing in the FIA Formula 3 Championship this year over in Europe. With Carlin Racing. We started testing earlier this week, actually, so I missed all the testing for the race here this weekend. The season starts next month with the WEC Championship, and I think we'll be in good contention for the championship, so we'll push hard.
But there's over 30, 35, 36 cars there with all the young guns.
Yeah, obviously, I think it's at the moment one of the toughest championships in the world for junior Formula cars. It's my second year going into the championship, and all the testings proved really well. The team's good, everyone works together really well. So all we can do is put results together, stay consistent, and hope for the best.
Well, he's a Californian, but his parents are Brazilian. So on that note, it's just to tell you, it's would have been, I think, the 55th birthday of Ayrton Senna today.
Wow, now there's a thought.
Hey, is gearbox a euphemism for every other failure on the car?
Well, there's a certain...
Funny you should pick up on that, yes.
I mean, you always hear about the gearboxes blowing up, and I think, gosh, haven't anybody figured these things out
I think
yet?
back at the shop, the guys who do the gearboxes like, not again. You just threw me under the bus.
Exactly.
How did you do that?
Well,
when it was your guy, the electronics guy, the aero guy.
This is motorsports. It depends on where the support is coming from. If you want to keep people on your side, you don't want to throw them under the bus. Andrew?
Yeah, I actually talked to Paul Gentilozzi, who runs this car. It is a gearbox issue, but it's to do with the electronics. It's not to do with the actual gears. It's the electronics which shifts it. That's what the problem is, definitely what it is.
Well, that's technology blurring the lines between mechanical components and electrical components and so forth. So is it an electrical problem or a gearbox problem? Quick question about the racing issue, Larry. Are we reading all of the usual Road and Track folks that we read all the time, or do you have some guest writers?
Absolutely.
Involved?
No, a lot of our really fantastic writers. We got Sam Smith describing what it's like to drive at Monterey Historics. I drove that Glickenhaus car. We got a little bit of Peter Egan. All the big guys are in there, so
awesome.
I think guys will enjoy it.
Well, we'll look forward to it. When will it be on the newsstands?
In 2 weeks.
Great. Thank you very much. Larry Webster, editor-in-chief at Road and Track, has been our guest. We'll take another break and return as the action continues. Working our 5th hour here at the Sebring 12 Hours. We'll be back to Central Florida in a moment. There's a good look at turn 17, the tunnel turn here at Sebring International Raceway as we continue with our Fox Sports coverage of the Mobil 1. 12 hours of Sebring fueled by Fresh from Florida, the 63rd running of this great race. Consistently since 1952 with a break in 1974 for the OPEC oil crisis when the race did not take place, but more than 2,000 fans showed up anyway for the party. So I guess it's the 64th edition of the party. Beautiful day if you like heat. Temperature currently 86 degrees. Maybe we won't get up over 90 as the weatherman said we would. And the humidity has dropped remarkably down to 37%. But so has the wind, just 5 miles an hour coming out of the northwest.
I don't think it's broken 72 up here in the announce booth, unlike for our colleagues down in the pit lane where it has been incredibly intense for them. And Jamie Howe has been battling through it in great form. Jamie, what have you got for us?
Well, it is very hot down here, but worse off than what we have it standing on the concrete or what these drivers have it. And Andy Lally specifically in the number 44 for Magnus. You see this fan here, it's blowing on him now. They don't have a cool suit in the car. Andy, what's going on in the car where you guys cannot run a cool suit?
We're really close on weight right now with the Porsche, so to get a cool suit with water, ice, everything in it is about 35 pounds. We're too shy of that to do that would be overweight. We don't want to sacrifice the 8 or 10 pounds that it's going to be over 12 hours, so we run a helmet blower, but you know, we run full Nomex suit. The windows are closed up, and unlike the GTLM cars, the GTD cars are not regulated for the inside temperature, so it gets pretty warm. So when we get out, we get one of these nice blue fans. I grab a Cliff Bar and a water and just trying to rehydrate as quick as we can. We normally do double stints here throughout the race, but right now through the heat, it's been 10 years since I've been this hot at Sebring before. We're at 90 degrees or so, and it's humid, so it's beating us up. We're gonna do singles till the sun starts to set, and then we'll double it on out.
We're talking about a car that weighs over 2,000 pounds, 8 to 10 pounds. It doesn't sound like that much. Is it worth sacrificing the driver for that weight?
Now that's our job, to be fit and be ready to do this. It doesn't hurt to do a driver change every time because we've got the driver changes down now to where they're at about 25 seconds, so that's faster than fuel and tires. So it keeps us fresh. We just got to be smart about it and hydrate and be good. But once, does that 8 pounds matter? Yes, absolutely. I mean, every ounce matters in these cars. You saw the qualifying and the racing out there. It's so tight. 8 pounds gets magnified exponentially when you add the G-force in there. Every G adds up, so it makes a difference in the corners, and we don't want to risk it.
Strategy-wise, how big of a break do you get now? When are you back in the car?
I don't know. I think John's going to do hopefully an hour. He needs to do an hour and 20 minutes for his time to make 3 hours. So if we get a yellow at any point, we're going to fuel him and tire him. Marco will do a stint, and then I'll probably get in, and that's when we'll start our doubles, and it'll go me, Marco, me, to the end. That's how we write the strategy, but it never pans out exactly as you want. Big thanks to Flexbox for being on board with us this weekend, too.
Thank you, Andy.
So there you have it. Single-seater open wheel racing is not the only form of motorsport where they measure weight by the ounce.
Which is probably why most of our announce team gave up. Because we weren't very good at the weight part. But, you know, we were watching a lot of on-track action there as Andy's talking. And right now, you know, the pressure is on for these guys because there's driver changes coming up for some of them. They're in the rhythm of this race. There's a nice cloud cover, which I think has been helping the temperature just keep itself under the 90-degree mark. We heard reports that the number 5, the lead car, Christian Fittipaldi, is going to make a pit stop in a minute. But Christian, as he hits the pit lane there, hopefully one of our pit guys is down there, but this car is on a mission right now.
22 laps since his last stop. Excuse me, 21. It'll be 22 when he crosses start-finish. Right about there. Brian Till is back in the pit lane. And he is awaiting Christian Fittipaldi in the number 5.
Fittipaldi is here. It'll be Joao Barbosa who takes over, watching this car during the break, watching it over the bumps. It's just spectacular. They've got the chassis working. The suspension is good. The platform stays level. The suspension does what it should. I shouldn't say it looks easy to drive because the drivers are really being punished around this bumpy Sebring circuit. But there's not a better car out there, and it shows where they were running on the racetrack. You guys talked about it. Every lap of competition. Last year at Daytona, this team has completed, and they're off for another one right now.
Well, while that pit stop took place, you watched the 07 Mazda Skyactiv diesel prototype also headed back to the paddock area. That would mean that both the 70 and the 07 are, for the moment at least, out of the race. We'll try to get an update on what the exact problem is, and we'll bring it to you as soon as we know. It's a disappointment for a stout team. Our thoughts go out to Mazda and the Speed Source boys, now in the second year of that program, to race with the big boys in the prototype division with that innovative technology of fuel, engine, drivetrain, chassis, and so forth. We'll have a special guest when we return to Sebring International Raceway with more of the 63rd running of the Mobil 1. 12 hours of Sebring fueled by Fresh from Florida. Stay with us. We'll be back. Back live at Sebring International Raceway, you are on board with Johannes van Overbeek in the #2 prototype car from Tequila Patron Extreme Speed Motorsports. Overbeek taking over from John Fogarty. Wait for timing and scoring to recycle. We're shown in 4th place when Fogarty brought the car into pit. You see Van Overbeek being very careful about getting his tires up to temperature and staying out of the way of traffic, including that GTLM class Corvette up ahead, while he gets the tires up to temp. Approaching 6 hours and 30 minutes remaining in the race. Save your cards and letters. I said 5th hour before. It is the 6th hour of our coverage that we are working. And we are joined by a special guest here at the announce booth, high above start finish. Winner of this race on a couple of occasions, as well as many, many other races and championships around the world. Brian Redmond. Brian, thanks for taking the time to come and chat with us.
Well, thanks, Bob. It's a great pleasure to be here, I can tell you.
You have 3 Formula 5000 championships. You were the first IMSA GTP champion back in the day, but you're here this weekend to celebrate the 40th anniversary of a very, very pivotal victory for BMW and their then young factory team here in North America. How do you look back on that 75 Sebring win?
Well, as we know now, perhaps even more so than then, it was a fantastic win. And it was propelled BMW into the motorsports world and into the retail marketing of BMW in North America. And after the win at Sebring and the following year at the Daytona 24-hour race, BMW retail sales tripled in the time.
25 GTLM car, Dirk Werner bringing that BMW, wearing, we should point out, a throwback livery like that of the BMW 3.0 CSL that Brian drove back in the day, winning with teammates Hans Stuck, Alan Moffat, and Sam Posey. But the majority of the racing, it must be said, in that event was your doing, Brian. 7 of the 12 hours. How did that come about?
Well, it came about by a mixture of circumstance, because before the race meeting, Jochen Nierpasch, who is here today, the team manager and at one time board member of BMW, he got the drivers together. That was Hans Stuck and Sam Posey, myself and Alan Moffat, and he said, Hans, I wish you to go out and break the Porsches. And to me, he said, Brian, he said, please take care and win the race. And that's really what happened. Amazing.
How incredible that you should do that. But when you're here now, looking at Sebring, we've talked a lot during the race about some of the surface is original. About 30% of it, I guess, is original. How much of Sebring do you recognize, or is it just the atmosphere that you recognize as much as anything when you walk in? Because it's still then an amazing event.
It's still an amazing event, and the atmosphere is, as it was then, tremendous. But the huge difference, of course, is that here we see motorhomes and magnificent trailers and the best of everything stretching as far as the eye can see. And in those days, 75, they were all tents and scruffy little trailers that people had dragged out of the backwoods.
I bet I can find you a couple of those. I went and had a look on yesterday, and I found them. Here's an interesting thing, and I've heard Sterling Sir Sterling Moss say it before, and he said it in a lovely little piece we ran a bit earlier when he's driving down the back straight in an E-Type, and he says, and the glory days of Sebring, and let's take a look back at those fabulous drivers. And that's him saying it, right?
Really?
And every generation looks back on the generation before as the greatest generation in a way, don't they? And when you got here, there were some amazing drivers that have touched the ground before you. But you're certainly part of the history.
Yes, no. The Chaparral won, of course, in 1966 in terrible wet conditions. I remember seeing a photograph of the spare tyres in the pit floating down the pit lane. Can you imagine that? In 1969, my Porsche co-driver Joe Siffert and I came to test for 24 hours. The chassis broke at 20 hours. The engineer says, this is good. The race is only 12 hours. And of course, all 5 cars broke the chassis in the race. So the BMW in 75, I was given the last stint as a kind of a honour thing, you know. And with about 20 minutes to go, I turned the lights out because the battery was going down. So when I came past the pits, I had to turn the lights on because I didn't want to get the black flag. And to my horror, with 20 minutes to go, I turned the lights on, I look at the gauges, and the rear axle temperature gauge was off the clock. And I slowed right down to as slow as I could go and watched the gap coming down to the second car. And fortunately, it kept going. A rear axle pinion bearing had gone. And so, hey, a win's a win.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, you saw the 25 BMW GT-LM car, the Z4, going behind the wall. We understand it's a right front suspension problem. Brian Till has more on that.
Yeah, it's the lower A-arm on the right front, but they'll take that back, try to get it repaired, and get it back out there. You're talking about 1975 and braking cars. I want you to look at the sideburns on Jay O'Connell, one of the engineers on the BMW Team RLL. Look at those sideburns. Brian, does that remind you of sideburns back in 1975, perhaps? Not only a retro paint scheme, but some retro hair down here.
Yeah, it's a bit disturbing, really. I had absolutely black hair with long sideburns, and now it's grey and fairly short.
Brian, you had such a brilliant career, totally apart from your BMW days. How do you look back on your entire career? What goes through your head when you think about what you accomplished in racing?
I think I was very lucky. The one thing that I lacked, I didn't have huge ambition. I never wanted to be world champion. All I wanted to do was keep racing and earning a living. That was all. Of course, every race I went in, I did my best to win it. But I didn't have a huge overall ambition to win Indy or to be world Formula One champion.
You and your son James have a business dealing with vintage racing, running a number of high-profile events. There seems to be a lot of interest. We talked earlier with Larry Webster from Road and Track magazine about the concept that young people, the millennial generation, perhaps aren't as much in love with the automobile as earlier generations. Do you see that in your work with vintage racing, or do you see the enthusiasm of the day?
We see a lot of enthusiasm, but of course, a lot of the owners and drivers tend to be older.
Excuse me, the number 44, right front tire went down on the 44 GT Daytona Porsche. John Potter.
Yeah, he was lucky. If that went down on a fast part of the track, he's lucky. As you know, Brian, there's not a lot of gap between the edge of the road and hitting. And we've seen a lot at Sebring. You can either survive these massive spins and just drive or carry on, or you can have a little one and clout the wall. And so he was obviously able to get back to pit lane with that. And hopefully it's not cutting up the bodywork too badly. I'm sure one of our pit guys will be there when he pulls in. The wing mirror is hanging down, so I think he did hit something.
Yeah, he got something.
Oh, talking about, because in my day, we're talking about the early 70s, late 60s, there were a lot of tyre problems. And at Spa-Francorchamps, the fastest, most dangerous track in the world, in 1970, in practice in a 917 Porsche, I had a left rear tyre come off the rim at 180 miles an hour in a corner. When I got back to the pits, I got out of the car, my co-driver Joe Siffert fell on the floor laughing. I said, "What's the matter with you?" He said, "Brian, you're the colour of your overalls."
Oh my. We've talked through the first 6 hours or so of this broadcast about how Sebring, this racetrack, is like a living museum. Do you detect more than minor changes at Sebring since you knew it back in the day?
Well, I think the overall... Oh, ow. Sorry, yep. I just looked at that car hitting the wall.
That was contact, no doubt about it.
That was contact, all right. Since the very beginning, 68 was my first year, and of course, where you turn right into the main paddock area now, you disappeared down into the country past all those buildings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, John Potter's showing a little bit of frustration there, which we can't see the origination of that it looked, if his tyre went down, the way he tracked across the track there, Brian, did look like his tyre had gone down. He had nothing, because that wasn't a spin. I mean, he could easily have avoided it. So obviously it sucked him across the road into the wall. And you're going pretty blinking fast at that point. So
about 15 years ago, we did the Star against the Star people at the Long Beach Grand Prix in Toyotas. And in the Star side of it, there was Juan Manuel Fangio II, Clay Regazzoni, Cruz Pedregon, myself. Well, on the first lap, I saw Juan Manuel hit the wall. The next lap, I see him driving around with a flat tyre. So at dinner that night, the big dinner, I said, Juan, you had a big problem with a flat tyre on the first lap? He said, yes, Brian. He said, I had a big problem with a flat tyre after I hit the wall.
Well put. Well, Brian, we want to thank you for spending the time up here with us. Congratulations on the 40th anniversary of that great victory. And please give our regards to your wife, Marion.
Thank you very much indeed, Bob. Thanks, Justin.
Thanks so much for coming, Brian.
Two-time Sebring 12-hour winner, Brian Redmond. Poor John Potter sits in the car. Attrition starting to take a toll here in the 6th hour of the 63rd running at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. Stay with us. We'll be back here on Fox Sports. Back at Sebring, clouds beginning to gather overhead. That'll give the assembled spectators and racing teams a little bit of respite from the high temperatures and humidity here at the 63rd running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. It's the number 4 Corvette in the hands of Oliver Gavin. Comes back on track after a pit stop, allowing faster traffic to go through while he warms the tires.
You can see he's looking in his mirror there. It isn't actually a rear-facing mirror, as fans of the series know. The Corvette employs a rear-facing camera, and at night we get great views of it. We don't in the daytime. As the number 3 makes its way onto pit lane, so obviously in the window, these cars on pretty much the same strategy all the way through.
Yeah, Magnussen brings the number 3 in. Not only do they have that rear-facing camera, they introduce that radar technology that tells the driver at an instant a rough idea of how quickly the car behind is coming up and what side they are on in case of darkness or, as we saw at Le Mans so many times, fog.
Looks like as they take on a regular stop, there is a driver change.
Yep. You notice that long extension to the fueling hose that goes right down in the car. They have the fuel cell located right in the middle of the car in as safe a location as they can manage, but to get fuel to it, rather than running a long neck or tube, filler tube down to the tank, they just leave the valve down on the tank and use that long nozzle extension to get down to it.
Yeah, I think it might have been Garcia getting in, and it was such a clockwork pit stop for them. That was perfect. And of course, they're all running in the top 4 here, so you need to be, again, this point of the race, you cannot have something go wrong. And as we're watching the 912 in the pit lane, again, probably on a routine stop as he pulls off there.
Now, word for the pits, it was not Oliver Gavin who went out, but Tommy Milner now in the 4 car. Whoa, the 16 has backed into the wall.
Oh, yeah, that's if Mark can't get himself, as you can see there, Mark Drumright in the 16, just put it in the wall there. If he can't get himself out of there, the rear wing is all bent up. That was an unfortunate 1 lap wrong on the pit stop for the Corvettes. That would have been a sweet deal.
That's down at the hairpin.
Yeah, that car's had the wars today.
He's called into the crew that he's all right. The car, however, is not.
Yeah, that's a little too much rake on that rear wing.
Can you move it?
Right now, race control are watching this very closely. They really do be very considerate, take a lot of deliberation on whether they're going to throw a yellow, especially if a car is in an immediately dangerous place. They want to see if he can make his own way, and we're going to have to see right now if he can get going. But of course, we don't know. Of course, the gearbox right at the back there and everything, you don't know if any damage has been done.
You can see how far off the racing line he is in a fairly slow corner.
Yep, they're still going to have to pull it right now. The 24 BMW is making his way into the pit lane there. Jens Klingman in behind the wheel, actually leading GTLMM due to the pit stop cycling as they come in. Brian Till is down there with the car.
Lucas Luhr climbing in. 2 very tall drivers, so
makes it easy when they get this driver change done. 4 new Michelin's going on. Should be a routine stop, but think about this team. They watched their sister car go back behind the wall, back to the paddock area to change that lower right A-arm. You know that this racetrack can be brutal on these cars, and you've got to wonder, that thought in the back of your head, is it going to happen to us too?
That was a very instantaneous call. We're not sure where BMW were on their pit cycling right then, but to get him in just before, which is probably going to be a full course yellow, was if he was somewhere in that window, was probably a good shout.
5th full course yellow. There you see work continuing on the Magnus Racing 911. Let's take a look at some video. This is the first time we're seeing. See that number 49 AF Corsa GTD Ferrari. Potter comes up and makes contact with the left rear pretty hard.
Yeah,
it
but
must be said.
And he was a little bit lazy as he went in there, and I think I was a little bit lazy on his move and not at all emphatic. And of course they collided, and that's where he obviously cut the tire. And as he came out of turn 16, it sucked him, dragged him, pulled him across the track. Boom, and there was nothing he can do. And look at his hands on his head. He knows that it was probably something to do with him.
Wow.
Jamie, you got more on what happened? Look at the brake rotors all over the floor, broken in half.
Yeah, they've been on pit road for a long time, guys, trying to get this issue sorted. There's a lot of damage to that corner of the car, but John Potter is beside himself sitting inside of the cockpit. He was just on the radio with his co-driver, Andy Lally, just so upset, saying, I put the car in a really stupid place. Andy's trying to calm him down, of course, saying, listen, bud, it's been a long time since we've had an incident like this. It's going to happen. You're out there pushing. It's not a big deal. Just get your head back in the game. But poor John, he's so upset sitting there.
Yeah, you can see, Jamie, when they took the wheel off, actually it wasn't just the rotor that fell off. You also sort of the stub axle, everything sort of disappeared onto the ground, and obviously they're having to rebuild that right-hand corner, certainly as far as the wheel axle is right there. Troubles for this team, and John was doing a solid job, but it's just tough out there. Laps in deliberation and concentration, and he goes.
At the back of the picture, you see the pit lane officials overseeing the operation. They'll be watching traffic in the pit lane as well. Under our 5th full course caution, as we approach the halfway mark of this race, we'll take another break. Welcome back to Sebring. Still under a full course caution. The wave by has already happened, and the pits are open for prototype cars. And one of them taking advantage is João Barbosa in the number 5 Mustang sampling Corvette.
Yeah, I mean, obviously full course yellow, they can afford to get themselves in and out. Brian is down there, but everything looks pretty standard right now in pit lane, right, Brian?
Everything's standard for the 5. They're down and away. The 90 right behind them has come in. The VisitFlorida.com Corvette routine stop here. It's taken a little while longer. It looks like they're struggling back over on the right rear a little bit. Crew going to work. They're also going to add some oil in the back with the high pressure bottle, and then they'll get the 90 back underway.
It's interesting. The 5 was only about 11 laps into its stint, which would have been about half of the fuel load. They took no tires. Perhaps watching that thermometer, thinking that the track is cooled enough that they can get extra mileage. Look at the dripping out of the bottom.
Yeah, that's his drink bottle that is leaking in there, and that's not that he has a salivation issue. He's so excited to get out there that he started dribbling everywhere.
Yeah, gotcha.
No, it's the drink bottle. And sometimes the worst thing is that it starts feeding into your mouth on a drip, and you feel like a gerbil in a cage.
Well, I'm wondering if that might have happened. So he spit out the tube, and now it's just dripping down. I mean, you don't want to drown like those astronauts who had trouble with the water in their helmets during spacewalks.
So not like that at all, Bob, actually. Nothing like that at all. Because in space I'm saying you're reaching there, because I think in space it might be a little more terminal.
You think?
Here you just look like you wet yourself. Okay, as we head back out there, another one of my lateral things.
Right.
But it's, you know what, we're watching on track, obviously, because they didn't come in, I don't believe, the Scott Dixon in the 01. I think it's amazing how Ganassi, as we forecast 3 hours ago, makes their inevitable march towards the front. And I know it was a little out of sequence that got them there, but they're looking pretty strong. We're riding on board right now, and yeah, this race is we're setting ourselves up with 6 hours, just over 6 hours to go for a very sporty finish.
Well, we've talked before about how a team needs to be on its game from the pit wagon to the driver's seat and everywhere in between. We'll take another break as we await a restart, approaching the 6 hours remaining mark of Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. Welcome back to Sebring International Raceway and the 63rd running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, fueled by Fresh from Florida. Time for a Ford race break, getting you up to date on the highlights of the 6th hour of this race. Great battle for the lead in the overall and prototype class. Christian Fittipaldi battling with Mike Rockenfeller in the 5 and the 90. A pair of Corvette Daytona prototypes. Right now, the 5.
And the number 10 car trying to bounce back from some brake issues earlier in this event. Split some GT traffic heading down the front straightaway.
Max the Axe at his aggressive best, splitting a GTLM and a GT Daytona car in his relentless push toward the front. Now contact between the number 44 GT Daytona class Magnus Racing Porsche with a 49 AF Corsa Ferrari. Turns out to have created a problem on the right front wheel.
Yeah, it looked like no big issue, but when John Potter got to that back straightaway, suddenly that right front lets go. Massive impact with the wall. He gets the car back to pit lane, but you can see extreme frustration from that driver right now.
Problems for the BMW team. The number 25 car going behind the wall with a broken lower right front A-arm, and then the 5th full course caution of the race brought out with a spin by the number 16 prototype challenge car, which has been towed away, and we expect a green flag again shortly. We'll give you a look at a full field leaderboard. Scott Dixon, the IndyCar and 8500 champion, now at the controls of the 01 from Ganassi Racing. Looking down through the full field, you'll see the leaders in prototype challenge, in GTLM, and in GT Daytona, although attrition has set in and a growing number of cars are being worked on or loaded up for the long ride back home. Their race over. Clouds are overhead. That'll bring the temperature down just a little bit. Hey, a Charleston. Maybe next he'll do the twist, the mashed potatoes, the Macarena. We'll find out. Welcome back live to Sebring, where we've just moved into the second half of this race. 5 hours, 58 minutes and change remaining as we go green, and Scott Dixon leads away over Joao Barbosa, Richard Westbrook, and Johannes van Overbeek in prototype cars.
Yeah, as you can see, Scott took advantage of the GT traffic between him and Joao and is probably laying his right foot down as hard as he can just to try and maintain that bit of momentum at the front. I mean, just amazing, as I said a minute ago, to see the Ganassi car. In the words of, or in the text tweeting words of Jamie Allison, one of the masterminds really behind Ford's Motorsport program, he just tweeted, "Can anyone else hear the theme tune from Jaws?" And I think that's very appropriate, Jamie, because right now your car is actually eaten the people it needed to at this point. But right behind him, you can see that the 31 car, Dane Cameron, is not for position, but he is certainly able to keep the pace up. And this is a very, right now, Bob, with coming off that relatively short yellow, you know, everybody's, you know, the tires have to be got up to temperature. You're dealing with a lot of multi-class traffic. There was people everywhere from every category. You've got to have your game about you. You've got to have your wits about you right now.
No question about it. Now, Scott Dixon on the lead did not pit under that yellow flag, so that may have foiled the strategy of some of those teams to try to get a lap back by getting their pit work done, getting out ahead of the race leader, and getting to go all the way around and join at the tail of the field. We'll see how that all unfolds.
We just saw Antonio Garcia in the Corvette there to go through turn 16 down that long straight into turn 17. Looking back now at, that is the Joao Barbosa car from the back of the Corvette.
I love this camera.
So do I. It shows how fast the GTLM cars are down the straight, because it's not a given that they go by that quickly. But obviously they do on the exit of the very bumpy turn 17.
Saw the number 5 car there, as we spoke earlier, when we reached the 150 lap mark about 12 laps ago. They completed their 10,000th racing mile, every mile since the beginning of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship over a year ago.
What a fantastic shot. That is the leading PC car behind the 52 there. Connor Daly in the 38. I don't know if that was him alongside. He's second on the road. We can't quite see, but
Connor's doing
Tom
a long stint,
Kimber-Sith has just been overtaken. Yeah, that was pretty good racing there. That was actually the 54. Colin Braun trying to get his lap back, which he has done, but is not for position right there. Colin obviously able to, we've seen it throughout the whole race, Bob. Colin is extremely quick off a restart, and I think that's what we're seeing there. And obviously the Braun car is, Core Autosport car is very quick anyway. Everyone wants to try and keep their you know, you want to keep on that lap. You want to make the most of the advantage you have in case there's another yellow. You don't want to, drivers are drivers, they don't want to be behind anyone, that's for sure. The Corvette there is being bombarded by the PC traffic, and these are the top guys in PC, otherwise there isn't much of a gap between them.
See Colin checking his mirrors. He needs to gap the other PC cars behind him a bit if he's going to get the opportunity to make up a lap. Here's the final Le Mans curve leading onto the Ullman Straight.
Okay, great shot there of Tom Kimber-Smith there in his PC car, and he finally is able to go by the Corvette. Very distinct. You wouldn't even need to be told which car this is we're riding on board right now. Such is the distinctive engine tone.
And here comes Connor Daly in the 38.
Great to listen to as the 38 goes by as you go into turn 1. All right, this traffic has started to cycle its way through. Everybody will be pleased about that. The Falcon Porsche is about to get overtaken by the PC leader right now. First and second place, actually. Oh, it's a little twitchy there. Did you see that? That didn't look so healthy. I think he's just pushing hard and everything not going quite right. They'll be very glad of this hazy cloud cover, Bob, because as we heard from our pit reporters, it is cooler down there right now. Interesting, we're hearing on the radio that the 38 car is losing his rear tires, which explains why it looked nasty and twitchy as he came out through those tight left onto the front straight there.
Well, that broken diffuser, which has been that way since the start of this race virtually, can't be helping tire life. Because he's going to lose some downforce and the back is going to move around a bit more.
Yeah, looks like he's about to be driven over rather than round. Patrick Long there is not going to have that much patience for a winged PC car right now, because, you know, Patrick is lying second in GTLM and he has not got the time to get stuck behind someone that's fast on the straight and slow coming off corners. So we'll have to watch this space quite closely, because as you can see, Patrick has got Antonio Garcia in the number 3 Corvette. Right up is Dudar as they come out onto the front straight.
Garcia closing in, using the draft of the Porsche up ahead. I was a bit surprised those PC cars went by Patrick Long in that RSR quite as easily as they did, although he may still have been bringing fresh tires up to temp.
Yeah, it looks like right now that Garcia's got a little bit of a run going here on Patrick. Is he going to go down the inside? It's too early for massive defense of the fort, but yes, he makes the move into turn 1. Great shot there off the Falcon Porsche. I love that. Great call by our producer to show that shot, because that shows how much commitment it takes to go through that corner. I have just been corrected. The man whose genius it was to show that was actually the director, not the producer.
Oh,
so,
stop sucking up.
I know. After my whole commentary about Formula E, I have to get some ground back before I'm covering pensioners' bools. That sounded bad too. Bowls, I meant.
Don't understand why you Brits insist on calling it Formula E.
Oh, behave, Bob. Corvette, Porsche, Corvette. That's the way this racing runs. Very nice. I'm just so impressed, as always, with the way the Falcon Porsche goes. Patrick Long, what a great addition for them. He can push as hard as any known living Porsche driver when it comes to being in one of these cars. Certainly if you want a man that doesn't make many mistakes.
He's had a terrific career for sure. Still the only American factory Porsche driver.
Corvettes look very stable, don't they? They really have their tires under them. I mean, other than that one spin that we saw a few hours ago, which was self-confessed exuberation. Right now, I mean, they just hardly put a wheel out. They look really good. Must be the perfect window for their tire selection with the temperature. I mean, that's something these tire engineers are monitoring very closely, is which window of temperature it is as they come down into the 17. Apparently the one car is in the pits as the Corvette comes back onto the straight. Jamie is with them.
Yeah, I just checked in with the team. Ryan Dial brought the car in. They were not up on the wall ready for him. They did put the signboard out at the very last minute. It seems that they're having a steering issue right now, and Extreme Speed Motorsports is not going to take any chances today. Because remember, like I said at the top of the show, they have to have these cars packed up and ready to ship to Europe tomorrow. So they're not going to go out there and run around and get any damage on these cars. So they're going to take their time here on pit lane and address this steering issue.
Boy, oh boy, and I'm thinking mechanics have some long days and nights ahead of them.
Well, the drivers go and play golf. It's just not a fair life, really.
Well, I'm sure the mechanics don't want drivers picking up wrenches and other tools of ignorance.
Not this one, that's for sure. We just saw Alex Popper there in the PC car getting very irritated behind the Corvette of Tommy Milner, and he was actually really weaving around trying to get by, but you can see it again. He's having another go. It's setting up for something a bit odd, I think, if he keeps doing that. So you can see it. I mean, in a minute, I have a feeling that a little bit of a desperate move is going to come off. And Bob, that normally doesn't end well when you have someone weighing a little more in front of you.
Well, we'll watch this GTLM battle as it comes forward. There goes Connor Daly, Patrick Pilet, Antonio Garcia, Patrick Long, Tommy Milner. Number 8 Martini liveried PC car. Let's listen to some radio from the 52 team and Tom Kimber-Smith.
Right, Colin is obviously just got his lap back. Connor Daly is a hair on fire moment. He is in P2 directly behind now.
Hair on fire moment. I love it.
That's good description.
Yeah, but I wonder which Tom Kimber-Smith is more concerned about. Colin Brown made his lap up going quickly, or Connor Daly driving like his hair was on fire.
Boy, Connor's only about 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds behind, so it doesn't take much for him to make that difference up if they get caught in a little bit of traffic. Tom certainly has to keep the hammer down in between the traffic he overtakes or when he gets overtaken, just to be able to keep that difference up, because Connor's looking awfully sporty out there if he gets close, and of course it's a nice thing to lead your class. Let's just watch the gap. Let's, over the next half hour or so, watch the differential.
Now into the second half and charging toward the 7-hour mark. Stay with us. We'll be back live to Sebring. Here's a Ford Sebring flashback. Back in 1969, great year for John Wire Automotive Engineering, and that iconic blue and orange livery, the 22 GT40 in the hands of Jackie Ickx and Jackie Oliver took victory. That was the last time Ford won here at the 12 Hours until last year, March 15th, 2014, when the EcoBoost twin-turbo V6 Ganassi Racing, Scott Pruitt, Memo Rojas, and Marino Franchitti right to left brought Ford back to victory lane at this legendary racetrack. And from what we are told from the Blue Oval folks, it's just the beginning.
They lead right now, Bob, and chasing them hard are these two Corvettes. Richard Westbrook has that second position over Joao Barbosa, but all day long that number 5 car has had tremendous pace, and he's closing in on that second spot right now. Dixon's a little bit off strategy in terms of fuel. To see how that plays out, certainly we've got to think about that 8-hour mark in this race, and even now the guys in the pit box are starting to back time these stints.
Word from the pits is the number 1 Tequila Patron ESM car has gone behind the wall. Another victim. We'll find out. Meanwhile, here's Brian Till.
Down in Corvette camp with Bruce Crowley from ExxonMobil. And Bruce, I mean, when you look at this event, the 63rd running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, the relationship that you guys have with this event, why is it so important for this company to be involved with this event?
Yeah, well, first of all, Brian, you know, we're celebrating 20 years of title sponsorship of this event. It's an endurance race, but it's a sprint race as well. So this is our real-world laboratory out here. We have products out here where we're pushing the limits of temperature, pressure, RPM. Products that you can actually buy yourself off the shelf and put in your own car. And what we're doing here is we're feeding back the information we get from the track here, and that goes into improving the next generation of Mobil 1 product that consumers will buy.
Well, it's 20 years with the event, but I believe it's since 1996 that you've been involved with Corvette racing. We hear the manufacturers from the automobile side all the time talk about technology transfer, but you just said it, what you guys learn on the racetrack applies to the street cars as well?
Yeah, it does. I mean, if you look at the engineering process, it's very, very similar race car to a street car. But in the racing situation, you are pushing that envelope. So we're looking at the moment at pushing out temperatures, the pressure that the lubricant can withstand, engine RPM that it can withstand. And this is an ideal opportunity for us to do it with Corvette. So these guys at the moment are racing with a Mobil 1 0W50 racing oil. You can go out and buy that and put it in your own car. What we do with them is we go with GM and the Corvette racing team. We go through a process of determining what the most efficient operation of the engine is. So we select the lubricant to give the most efficient operation, to get the most power out of the engine. But as you know, endurance racing is all about finishing as well. So there's this fine balance point whereby you need the durability, but you want to get as much performance out of the lubricant as you can. So we do all of that away from the track on the dyno. So we can do a full lap race simulation on the dynamometer, identify where the most efficient point is, and then when the guys come to the track, you know, what it's all about is setting the car up to hit that mark. So if we say, you know, 135 degrees is the optimum point, most efficient for the lubricant, and that's what they're trying to do, is hit that point here, get the best performance out of the car today.
I think you guys have been relatively successful since 1996. Corvette Racing, 9 wins here at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring with Mobil 1 in the car. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Pass for the lead as Richard Westbrook sweeps by, excuse me, not for the lead. That's Westbrook going by the number 5 car.
Well, I think that was actually Barbosa trying to get by Westbrook. They went side by side there in traffic, and Westy just held on to it, Bob. So these guys really fighting for that second spot. As we mentioned, Scott Dixon, little off fuel strategy. He's got 8 laps less fuel on board of his race car. He continues to lead in the Ganassi number 01. There we see him as he enters turn 17. Dane Cameron has really done a great job in closing in on that 01 car as he tries to get another lap back after their earlier issues with that right front coming loose after a pit stop early in this race.
Well, consistency is the hobgoblin of small minds. Just trying to keep the conversation lively. Good battle, though, between the 90 and the 5.
It's a great battle. And I think what we're seeing is potentially maybe some of these other squads who didn't quite have the pace of the 5 car earlier in this race have been tweaking on the car a little bit. Maybe the track conditions have maybe gone away from the 5 car just a little bit. They're still really quick, as you can see, but don't seem to have quite the edge they had early on, and we'll have to see how it shakes out when we get the cooler conditions in these final 2 or 3 hours. This is a great battle.
It feels like the race just started. Here we are Into the 7th hour.
Oh, that's our pole sitter, Freddie McAvecchi there, just dropping a wheel, coming off turn 16 on the back straightaway. Pushing hard. Corvettes, as Justin said, looking very strong. Car's balance looks good. Coming off the big win at Daytona, they sit in the 2nd and the 4th position right now, but Porsches are strong as well.
Patrick Pilet in the number 911 Porsche 911 RSR. Garcia in the 3.
Pilet is going to be basically one of the designated points getters for this season, along with Jörg Bergmeister in the sister car, because there's so much going on with all of the Porsche factory drivers jumping and changes between the World Endurance Championship, as we mentioned earlier in the show. Earl Bamber and Nick Tandy have been promoted into the prototype team for Le Mans, and the preceding race, which is the tune-up, the warm-up, if you'd like to call it that, for Le Mans at Spa, and that clashes with the Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca TUDOR Championship round, so they're not available. So spoke to the team this week. They're not even sure who's going to be driving when we hit the West Coast swing.
One thing that has changed about the 12 hours over the years, the drivers used to hang around a bit. Now they all grab their helmet bags and they're off to other assignments around the world. And as we've told you with the Tequila Patron ESM team, those race cars are packing up and headed across the world as soon as this race is over.
It's absolutely crazy. 10:30 tomorrow morning, after a grueling 12-hour race, those cars have to have engine changes and then in the transporters to be shipped up to Orlando for a flight over to Heathrow in the UK. They'll then be ground transported down to Paul Ricard for a mandatory WEC test next weekend. Team then stays over there, preps the cars for a first race. Oh, really wide there.
Oh, boy.
Barbosa really out in the gray. Sure if he's got an issue or whether he just got wide and got in the marbles.
See if he gets fully back up to speed. It looks like he has.
Westy's got around our new GTD leader, which is the number 33 car, again getting to the front of the pack. Bleekemolen behind the wheel.
He put that car on pole for this race. He moves aside to let the 5 through.
Barbosa seems like he's up to speed a little bit, so it just seems like it was a momentary slip. Just shows how hard he's pushing.
Off to the right, that area in the background beyond the fence is known as Green Park, the scene of, shall we say, some of the most spirited revelry we see every year. A lot of great racetracks like Indianapolis, Watkins Glen have those places where partying is the priority. Green Park is where it happens here in Sebring. Our Justin Bell will be out there, hopefully with an armed guard, to check out the action a little later on. We'll be back to Sebring. Stay with us. Back at Sebring, problems on the number 4 Corvette. Moving at somewhat reduced speed, although keeping up there with the Aston Martin.
Seemed like he came to a complete stop and then may have reset something and did a quick burnout, so he may have been able to figure out what the problem was, but they had to do some sort of shutdown on the electronics, I would suspect. We'll have to check into that, but
reboot.
Yeah, Milner had been on a bit of a charge here, right in the thick of a battle. It kept Freddie McAvecchi right behind him, was chasing down Patrick Long.
Looks like Tommy Milner's still trying to figure out what's going on.
What might be happening, because he pulled off the road, he may have got into the marbles, Bob, and he's now just trying to clean the tires up. Here we see it. Went very slowly here. This is down in towards turn 10, I think, and then as he exits this corner, he pulls over to the side of the road. Watch it right here, and I think this is where he does the reboot. So he comes to a complete stop, probably shuts the engine down completely, reset, and away he goes. And I think by pulling off the side of the road, maybe he just picked up some marbles, but we'll see. Seems to be up to speed again now.
Yep. So the order in GTLM remains Patrick Pilet, Antonio Garcia in the sister car to this one, Patrick Long in the 17 Porsche, Fred McAvecchi in the 912 factory Porsche, Pierre Caffer in the 62 Ferrari.
They're hanging in there. The Risi boys had so much success here over the years. Don't count those guys out. We haven't really seen them right at the sharp end, but they've been right in the pack all day and seem to have decent pace in the race car.
Yeah, Caffer's won this race a few times.
Yeah. Including an overall win for Audi back in 2004. Oh, look at that, really tight there between the 10 and the 90 down into the hairpin.
More on the number 4 Corvette with Brian.
Just checked in with Doug Feehan, who's the project manager at Corvette Racing. He said
You're not going to believe this, guys. Although it's happened before, the seat belts came undone.
Wow.
So Tommy Milner, obviously, it's critical that they're done. I mean, that goes without saying. So at the stop, get them rebuckled. Now he's back underway. But you're right, Calvin. One of the problems that Oz Negre had in the beginning with the 60 car, they made those changes, went back out, and then came back in and he said something's wrong. What was wrong was just pickup on the tires. So right now, especially with even more rubber down, you go offline, you're going to get that pickup. The car's not going to be right for another lap or so. Jamie?
We just checked back in with the number 10 car. We were following their brake struggles that they've had all weekend long. And Wayne said that that new package that they put on, the same package of rotors from Daytona, it has fixed the issue. So they don't know if they got a bad batch or what, but they're happy with the car at the moment.
We'll have to wait and see how that one plays out, but this is really, things are starting to heat up here a little bit. Dixon probably within a couple of laps of making a pit stop here. 26 laps on this run, which you wouldn't probably get to quite on a green flag run. There was some yellow involved there, so I think he's within 5 minutes of hitting pit lane, and he's about 8 laps different on their fuel strategy compared to these lead Corvettes.
Now, we just received some good news from race officials. Recall earlier in this race, that's the number 50 prototype car parked, and along comes a prototype car, Tracy Crone, and a prototype challenge car of Tommy Dreese, and you saw that crew member get tossed in the air. A very, very frightening incident, but the good news is that that crewman, whose name is Kevin Fox, has been evaluated and released from an area hospital, and that is terrific.
That is fantastic news. You just hate to see that. I mean, you know, drivers out on the racetrack, I mean, the cars are built safe. You hate to see anyone get involved in an incident, but they're taking a lot more risks than the crew guys. They're expected just to do normal work and not be in any sort of danger. But it just shows you, even at, you know, 60 kilometers an hour going down pit lane, it's a big race car when you get clipped.
Another vivid reminder of how dangerous it can be to work on these cars as well as drive them. To Brian.
Down in the Racers Group camp, James Davison, he had that phenomenal streak of pole positions in the Aston Martin. It didn't work out here. It looked like you guys didn't have the handle on that car, but the car seems to be coming good. What is it that you guys have done to get the handling back on the Aston?
Yeah, look, I think just when it gets really hot and humid, it hurts us a little more than others, just how soft we are and how we roll around and so on, and it makes it a little tough to keep the rear end under us. But we haven't changed much. Earlier on in the weekend, we tried some things that didn't work, and we've come back to where we started. And obviously, we had a great start to the race. The TRG Aston Martin was fantastic to do battle with Lee Keane and Spencer Pompelli and the Porsches, and both my teammates are doing a great job as well, and I'm feeling optimistic that today's going to be our day. I mean, we've clearly had the performance. We've just never had the luck on our side. I mean, everyone's got their story, of course, but it just seemed like we haven't been able to catch a break. So really looking forward to getting back in the car and the finish of this race and seeing where we end up.
And they're hoping for cooler weather at the end. They say the Aston Martin's going to come alive, Jamie.
Oh, and that's the Chrome car, that pole-sitting car for this race that has gone around in the hands of its owner, Tracy Crone.
It's turn 10.
Engine's running. Try to get it turned around safely. Got to watch the corner workers and flagmen. Well, at least he went back around the corner so he could look down the straightaway and find a hole in traffic. That was savvy.
Did a good job, yeah. Didn't think about going over the curb and potentially getting high-sided there. So quick spin, he's back underway. Nice job, nice recovery. But getting back to that TRG Aston, I mean, what a run that James Davison went on, dating back to last year, 5 consecutive poles, and that streak was finally broken here yesterday in the GTD category. So that Aston Martin has certainly shown a lot of strength here in the last few months, and I think it's only a matter of time before they get that victory.
Davison's a great talent. I had a long chat with him recently. He has really fought an uphill battle. You hear from time to time about drivers coming to America, sleeping in the garage, sleeping in their car, in the race truck, whatever it takes. James Davison is one of those guys. It's been an uphill fight. He's got a good situation with TRG AMR and other things on the horizon as well. So good on him.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, came over here, had a great single-seated career going on, and obviously was looking to get to the top of the sport. Got to the Indy 500 last year. We see the 10 car now on pit lane once again.
Driver change. Ricky Taylor out. Jordan Taylor in, it looked like. Off comes the windshield screen.
And days like this is really just damage control. Thinking about the championship, obviously had the disappointment at Daytona, and the 90 car is in as well. Brian?
A lot of grass on the radiator grill on the 90 as Richard Westbrook climbs out. Michael Valiente will be climbing in. They're going to have to take some compressed air and blow it down through the radiators back out the front of the car to make sure that they get not only the grass, but a lot of the sand that undoubtedly is collected in that radiator. As hot as it is today, you can't stand to have any kind of blockage up there. Tires are on, just finishing the stop, getting the radiator cleaned. They'll be back underway, Jamie.
Well, just the lap before this, guys, real quick, the number 01 came into the pit lane from the lead. Scott Dixon did stay behind the wheel of the car, and there was no damage to that one. It's a very clean fuel tire only pit stop.
Michael Valiente tightening up the belts as the number 90 car, that's him, bottom of your screen, coming down to the end of the pit lane.
Played golf enough times with Westy to see similar sort of roughage on the end of his golf club. That's normally where he's playing from.
Where does he dig bigger divots, with the race car or with the 7-iron?
He's a great driver and a lot of fun.
Yes,
Brian?
he is. What's up with the 52?
Tom Kimber-Smith stayed in 4 new Continental tires, but I'm looking at the left rear that came off. Shows just how close the competition is out on the racetrack. It should say Continental up on the side up here, and you can see, man, some close racing going on here at Sebring.
You also saw one of the headlights out on the 52 as it pulled out of the pit lane. That's fine right now, but it won't be later on after the sun goes down about 7:30 Eastern time and it gets really dark at Sebring.
It really does. I mean, it's a nightmare if you don't have the headlights working to their full effect once we get to those darkness hours here for the last 2 or 3 hours. I think what time does it get dark? Like sunset's like 7:30, but truly dark about 8:15, I think.
Yeah, I would think.
So a couple hours plus.
They're going to get plenty of running in the dark. And race control has said in the past in the drivers' meetings, okay, you have one headlight out, we'll give you that. That's one thing at Daytona where the track is very well lit. If you have one front, one rear, if you have 2 out at either end of the car, they're going to call you in. But even if they'll let you drive with one headlight around Sebring, it's a whole different story.
Certainly focused on the number 1 car and their problems potentially led a race early, and but this 2 car has snuck up into the mix here. Johannes van Overbeek behind the wheel having a really clean run here, running in the 2nd position. He, Ed Brown, and John Fogarty doing a great job today.
On the same pit schedule as the race leading number 5 of Joao Barbosa. We wait for timing and scoring to recycle. We'll take this opportunity for a break and return to Central Florida. Back live at Sebring as the 63rd running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, fueled by Fresh from Florida, continues here on Fox Sports. I'm Bob Marshall with Calvin Fish, Jamie Howe and Brian Till down in the pit lane. You're watching the number 33 GTLM Dodge Viper SRT in the hands of Jeroen Bleekemolen of the Netherlands, the man who put it on the class pole for this race. Down in the pit lane, Brian Till is standing by with his teammate and car owner.
What a difference a year makes, Ben Keating. You look back to being here last year. I know you don't want to look back that far. So let's just look back to January. This team came so far from the troubles that happened here last year. And you think about all of that culminating with the win at the Rolex 24. How special was that to you, especially considering you're running out front right now?
I appreciate you calling it troubles. We don't speak about that happened last year, but it's really unbelievable. The team is really a totally different team. The last year was a development year. You know, now we've got a year behind us. All these guys have been working together for 3 or 4 years, actually, and we brought on a new partner with TI Automotive, and both the technical side and the marketing side, it's really a completely different team, and it really showed at Daytona. We better prepared than we've ever been before, better engineered than we've ever been before, and you know, the whole goal was to win Daytona. Now that we've done that, you know, it's on to the next race, and currently we're feeling good. We're running P1 and P5 in the 2 cars. Both cars are on the lead lap. I'm getting ready to go in and do a couple hours in the car, and then Jerome will finish it off. So we're feeling good.
They should be feeling good, and the confidence level is high here, especially after the win at the Rolex 24. Jamie?
Connor Daly has now climbed out of that number 38 PC car. Connor, we heard a radio call from Bobby Orgel from PR1 Motorsports saying that you were having a hair on fire kind of moment. What was going on in your car?
Well, maybe it's because I'm racing for my life. I don't know. I'm just trying to give it everything I have on every lap, and it's gone well so far. I mean, you know, the first double stint we did, we came in the lead, and then this time, just trying to make up as much time as possible. And it's super hectic out there. We double stinted a set of tires, and at the end of that stint, I was very much in Tokyo drift mode, so we were all over the place and still trying to just do as many laps as we could, and it's just, yeah, it's fun. It's crazy.
Now that the temperature's starting to go down a little bit, the heat of the day is over, what condition is the racetrack in?
It's really rough. It's there's a lot of rubber just stacked up on the curbs, especially under yellow. You had to avoid going on the curbs because your tires would pick up like a layer of rubber. So I think if you went out there with a shovel right now, you'd be able to build a castle with the rubber on the line. So it's very, very greasy, very slick, a lot of rubber going down. I think it's affecting us more than the GTLMs. The GTLMs still look like they're going pretty quick. But for us, in our case, I know that we are struggling with some greasy conditions out there for sure.
What's the plan for you guys then for the second half of this race? When will you get back in?
Well, I think we're gonna keep Jerry in for now, get another stint in for him, and then probably James, and then I think I'll get in when the dusk is starting to set in. So hopefully we can throw on a new set of tires and go out and smash some laps again.
All right, get some rest. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. Well, we had the car on fire, hair on fire. Call that our fire pit segment.
The one thing they've got to manage with the Pro-Am categories, both the Pro-Am drivers in that car combination have to do 3 hours each, so they've got to manage that, not just keep putting Connor out there and smashing laps, as he called it, Brian.
5 is in. Rob Barbosa stays behind the wheel. They'll change the drink bottle, give him 4 new Continental tires, send him on his way. No driver change at the 3 either. 4 new Michelin's there. The 3's back on the racetrack.
Thanks, Brian. Getting back to that fire in the 33 car last year, talking with Ben Keating at Daytona, although it burned forever and looked ferocious as all get out, he said the car was remarkably undamaged. Basically, the entire driveline was salvageable. The chassis of the car was fine. It just kind of melted some bodywork and some electronics. Other than that, they brought it back. In fact, that car is out racing again this year.
It is. That's the car they're running here this weekend, right. Chassis 001. So, yeah, it looked spectacular, and it burned for a long time, but they were able to recover it and regroup and went on to win a race last year, and a few poles along the way. It's a very competitive car in this category, and they've had some adjustment of performance, AOP as we call it now, to really try and balance the various marks in each category, but it's still super competitive.
On board the number 2 Tequila Patron ESM car, notice the logo of basecamp.com down below. Driver David Hennemeyer Hansen is also a very, very astute computer engineer, and he has created a number of websites, basically some infrastructure for various functions, way more technical than I could ever understand. But it's also given him some great resources to indulge his passion for racing, and he is a fine driver, a Le Mans winner. Also got a business degree, as I recall, from the University of Chicago, traveling over from Europe.
Well, Scott Sharp and Ryan Dial wanted to find the best silver graded driver available for their World Endurance campaign, and that's the guy they picked. So that makes a big statement right there.
Well, that's the kind of angle that'll help reserve from driving careers, being very, very quick. But heck, you could have won 50 world championships, but as soon as you're turned 50 years of age, you are a silver driver, and you are the most popular guy in the pit lane, I can tell you. We'll be back. Back at Sebring, picking up the race leader, Scott Dixon, in the Chip Ganassi Racing with Felix Sabates Ford EcoBoost Twin-turbo V6 Riley chassis leading the way here, trying desperately to become 2 times consecutive overall winners at the 12 Hours of Sebring. I'm Bob Varsh with Calvin Fish, Brian Till, and Jamie Howe down in the pit lane. And there is the 3-time Verizon IndyCar champion and Indy 500 winner. And he's amassing a pretty serious resume in sports car racing too, is Scott Dixon.
He really is. I mean, he's had the overall pole here before for Gilles de Ferran Motorsports a few years ago. And don't forget, the IndyCar boys seem to test here a lot. So he knows half of the circuit. They run on the shortened version of the race circuit. So the area he's coming up to right now, he knows particularly well. But Scott is really one of the best in anything that he drives, of course. Just a true talent, and so many championships and accolades over the years, and been with Ganassi for a long, long time now. And he's got a long future ahead of him as well, I think, in that camp.
Now, because none of his IndyCar fellows who drove with him in the winning 02 chassis from Ganassi Racing at the Rolex 24 at Daytona back in January, Dixon is in position to score a pretty rare feat, which would be winning both the Rolex 24 and the 12 Hours of Sebring in the same year.
Yeah, that would be huge. And in fact, it's his 14th year with Chip Ganassi Racing. And they've certainly been going very well in their IndyCar testing. Don't forget, Chevy and Honda have new aero kits for this year, so lots to look forward to next week at St. Pete. But, you know, he's a 3-car IndyCar champ and looking for more titles.
Those aero kits are pretty trick looking too.
Gaps around 3 seconds between Scott Dixon and Joao Barbosa. And the margin, or the difference in the pit stop, is now 6 laps. So it seems like the 01 car is getting pretty good fuel mileage as well. So even though they're a little off strategy, that difference is kind of getting a little bit less each time that they do a full fuel run. It seems like Scott is able to run a little bit longer out there than Barbosa.
When I had the privilege of driving the Formula E race car 2 weeks ago or so down at Homestead Miami Speedway, my tutor was a Portuguese driver named Bruno Correa, who is very close friends and former karting rivals with Joao Barbosa. And that's an example of one of the ways you can make money as a professional driver without actually racing, although Correa does as well down in Brazil in the stock cars. But interesting guy, and good friends with Joao.
Dane Cameron there in the 31 car. He's putting in some really strong lap times right now. They're still trying to make up a couple of laps from their earlier problems, but the pace is certainly there. So if they get enough cautions, they could be a factor here at the end of this game as well. He split Ian James there, who's running in the second spot. A great run for this Alex Job, number 23, the heart of racing, number 23. But right behind him, he's feeling the pressure right now from Christopher Haase, and he is really a demon in one of these Audis. Did a great job last year, nearly snuck the championship away, won the final round of the championship at Petit Le Mans with his teammate. Oh, Ian there, locking up a little bit, locking up the rears there into turn 10. He's feeling the heat. As we said, keys to victory, stay cool.
Looking out the windshield, looking into the
Haase's got a run on him. Haase got on the power really early there. I think the Audi's a bit more hooked up. Really tricky corner there down into the tower turn. The braking, your car's all leaning to the left. You're trying to get the car turned in. And Ian is just trying to defend and hold on to this position right now as they both try and chase down Bleekemolen, who continues to lead in the 33 Viper.
Onto the straightaway they come, and here comes the overall race leader behind them. So Haase's going to have to watch his mirrors too as Dixon comes flashing by.
You see Barbosa as well in the background. And look, just behind those guys, Christina Nielsen having a tremendous run here in the 007, the TRG Aston Martin, up into the 4th spot.
Oh, Haase looking down the inside. He'll force the issue around the outside. Goes Barbosa. 3 wide in the tunnel turn.
Multi-class racing at its best, and with all of that, he's hitting pit lane anyway.
Wanted to make the pass before I pitted the car. Okay.
Lead is just under 2 seconds despite the traffic. Barbosa was within 2 seconds of the lead of Scott Dixon.
There's Nielsen from Denmark. Another female driver in the field in the TRG AMR Aston Martin, sharing with James Davison and Derek DeBoer, or excuse me, Brandon Davis.
He's done a really good job. Came on board with TRG last year, ran some World Challenge events. as well as some Tudor races, and she is the real deal. I think she's got tremendous pace. I think she could pull a surprise here this year.
She is very good. Kevin Buckler owns the team, races these Aston Martins in 4 different series, including a spec series, Aston Martin only, running GT3 and GT4 Vantages, V8, V12 cars.
Kevin is the ultimate multitasker. He has so many balls in the air all of the time, and just does a tremendous job with everything, tremendous passion. He and his wife, Deborah, do a great job. They've got their wine business, Adobe Road, and that's very successful. And the race teams and the different programs they run, it's hard to keep track of. I mean, I don't know how he does it, but
all those
just
race
a brilliant
cars
job.
plus a winery.
Guys, when I was down talking to James Davison at TRG, I also spoke to Kevin Buckler, and he was talking about what a great job Christina Nielsen was doing in the car, just like you guys are. And he said the radio traffic was stellar a little bit earlier, as both AJR crews were on the radio to their drivers going, "You're being beaten by a girl right now, guys." And they were like, "But we can't catch her." So not to be sexist, but they were actually using that down pit lane to try to get the guys going a little bit faster to try to hunt down that Aston Martin. But as you said, Christina Nielsen's doing one heck of a job here at Sebring this week.
And James Davison talked about the setup on that race car. Tremendous roll. When we see that through that transition of 14 and 15, you can see the body roll in that Aston, and the split is almost touching on both sides as it makes that change of direction.
Speaking of getting going, apparently Christopher Haase got going a little too quickly in the pit lane. He was caught speeding, and he'll have to do a drive-through.
And these leaders on pit lane, the battle for the overall lead is getting very tight indeed. It looked on that last lap like Barbosa. Yes, he is right there, right in the rear-view mirror of Scott Dixon. But hats off to the Ganassi group. It has not been an easy week for these boys. I say a week, it's only been 3-day long weekend, compressed schedule here compared to years past. But coming off what they believe was a pretty strong test, they came in here and just didn't have the balance in the race car, kept throwing things out. It really was making a big difference in terms of lap time. Found themselves really off the pace to the leaders. But right here, you got to be patient in the traffic. But Dixon, the experience level shows right there.
It does give every slower car plenty of wiggle room, even with somebody right there on his gearbox, as Barbosa is. To Andrew.
Let's mention Christopher Haase there. Christopher, we just heard you got a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Did you know about that?
Yeah, we had a problem with the pit speed. It was switched on, but I don't know, it doesn't work. So we were just slightly through. We were just slightly over, but yeah, we have to now to find out what the problem is.
Okay, you're having a really good battle there for third place in GTD. You're right there in the battle, third in GTD, and got a chance of taking this.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Okay, you're in third place in GTD.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's quite good, but you never know. We have still a lot of hours to go, and especially during the night, it can happen so much, but we have to focus on ourselves right now, stay just in touch to the front, and that's the main target.
You're one of the stars of the Nürburgring 24 Hours. I think you won that race. Are you going back again this year?
It's nothing planned right now, but I think that should be the right thing to do.
Okay, thank you very much, Christopher.
Tell you what, watching these two leaders come through turn one, I can see where the advantage is with the 5. I mean, he really ate up the 01 right through the middle of the apex there, Bob. Even in the dirty era that the car in front of him is kicking up, I mean, Barbosa seems to have tremendous grip and balance through that high-speed corner.
Finishing up the 48 story, Bryce Miller has taken over that ride for Christopher Haase. He will serve that penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah, I mean, Haase said that the pit lane speed limiter wasn't working, but I'd be curious to know, because it will only work. You've still got to slow the car down. It can't break the car for you. And remember, he was in that battle with Ian James, ducked to pit lane pretty late. Sometimes when you're doing that type of thing, you're not in your normal mode of coming down pit lane. If he just crossed the line, you've got to hit the brakes, then engage the pit lane speed limiter. It's not just going to do it for you. So sometimes that can happen right on the initial entry.
And the pit lane is segmented. It's not like you go higher than the speed limit all the way down the pit lane. If you're caught anywhere on the pit lane, not at that 60-kilometer-an-hour limit, you will be nailed. And now you saw the 5 swing to driver's right. He is door-to-door with the 01, trying to use that Ferrari as a pick.
Wow.
Will it work? Yes, it will. Into the lead goes Joao Barbosa over Scott Dixon.
Dixon thought about fighting it and then thought about the big picture.
Long way still to race. Just under 5 hours remaining here at Sebring. Stay with us all the way to the end. We'll be back in just a moment with more live coverage. Back live at Sebring, and there you see new race leader Joao Barbosa as the number 5 Mustang sampling Corvette DP from Action Express just keeps pounding out the miles, as they have since January of 2014 in the Rolex 24. They haven't missed a beat, haven't missed a mile. They've had some scrapes. They've had to make up laps here and there, but they've covered every racing mile thus far in the history of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship. Let's have a look at some replays of how Joao Barbosa got the better of Scott Dixon in traffic.
Well, he's certainly been having a few looks, and he just got a great run off of 16. He's got a bit of a run on the back straightaway, and he's just using that Ferrari as a pick. You could see Dixon wanted to move over to that inside lane, and Joao just held steady there, and just good driving by both of them. Hard racing, not giving it up easy, but you don't want to fight it at this stage.
From the onboard camera on the Ganassi car.
Right there, Scott wants to move over, and there's just no way with that Ferrari up ahead of him. Just a slight brush there.
Ooh, boy, it looks closer with that GTD Ferrari from that angle.
But when you think about how they qualified and how they've been running this week, it's just a tremendous performance by the Ganassi group to get that 0-1 in the mix. I don't think they got the sharpest knife in the fight yet, but they'll continue to work on it and try and gauge where they think the track condition is going to go when it cools down a little bit tonight.
You also had a quick look at that 98 Gulf Oil liveried Aston Martin in the hands of Matthias Lauda, son of the great Niki Lauda. They had lots of problems early on. Paul Dell'Anna in that car lost a wheel, had to be towed back into the pit lane. They got the car back on track. Right now they are 29th overall and 8th in class, so a good comeback from that team. Meanwhile, the number 23 GTD Porsche has pitted, and that has elevated the number 007 Aston Martin from TRG AMR up into the GTD class lead.
It's a great run for the TRG group. They just hit pit lane as well, so that may cycle through on our timing and scoring here over the next lap or so. So I think James Davison is now behind the wheel, and indeed the 33 now cycles back to the top of the heap. So Ben Keating behind the wheel, and again just keeping track of the tab on the driver log time. Remember, we had some people run afoul of that at Daytona. 3 hours each silver driver has to do in the race car, so that's a lot of management there. 6 hours for 2 guys in this 12-hour race minimum.
A good look at that Aston. Terrific livery. And there is James Davison in the 007. What else would you number an Aston Martin?
James.
Right. Didn't get much closer than that, except it has got machine guns and an ejection seat. And it's not a DB4. DB4 or DB5? I can't remember which. I'm sure someone's going to tweet me the answer. Here's a few unofficial stats on the first 7 hours of this race. 5 full course caution flags for a total of 24 laps. Keep in mind, last year we had 11 cautions for the entire race for 73 laps. 5 different cars have led to this point. 15 overall lead changes. The record is 31 overall lead changes back in 2011, so that record could be in some jeopardy if they're going to keep fighting the way we just saw Joao Barbosa and Scott Dixon have at it.
And I'm just amazed at the roll in this car. I mean, you know, Sebring's all about being compliant over the bumps, but you need platform, and it really makes it a different driving style. You just can't come up to the corner and cut and carve the arc in there. You've really got to time it in terms of controlling that weight transfer as you come up through these transitional areas on this racetrack. So the guys are doing a great job with that. Now we're looking at our GTLM leader, continues to be one of the Porsche factory cars. 911 now driven by Richard Leitz, the 911 car. I think this GTLM battle is going to heat up here in these last few hours. I think there's going to be a yellow, and I think there's going to be some fireworks here before too long.
The gap isn't much, about 5-6 seconds. See if we can give it to you visually.
Remember, Porsche won in both GTLM and GTD last year. 69 class victories over the years, looking to add to that total here tonight. Really bounced back in this GTLM class where they had that clash between the two factory cars at Daytona.
As Leach swings on to the Ullman straight. We'll have a look back, see how far behind Garcia is. There comes the yellow Corvette. Not at all far behind. I think you're right, Calvin. These guys are going to close up.
Yeah.
Jörg Bergmeister, another 7 seconds or so. There he is in that white Porsche in the background.
Hensler's about 10 seconds behind him in another Porsche, and Kaffer's in the mix too. John Edwards sits there in the 6th spot in the first of the BMWs. The 25 car obviously had issues, went to the paddock. So they're in the 6th spot. They did do a brake change. That's why I think they lost a little bit of track position.
Here's the 22. Brian's there.
Routine stop. There is a driver change on this stop. Andrew Davis takes over from Cooper McNeil, and literally from just a few days ago when both Alex Job Racing Porsches unloaded, really were the class of the GT Daytona field. It'll be interesting to see when the weather cools down what kind of battle we end up having at the end of this thing between Porsche and Viper here in GT Daytona.
If we just caught that pit stop a little bit earlier and you saw, what, 6'6" Cooper McNeil get out of the car and somewhat more altitude challenged Andrew Davis get in, it probably would have been fun. I'm sure a great big seat bolster went in.
And he's a great fit for that team, no pun intended, in terms of the chemistry. I mean, Andrew Davis is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in the paddock, but he goes really quick. So most people say you can't be nice and be quick. Well, he doesn't tune into that at all.
Andrew Davis had an interesting race in the Continental Tire Round 2, which took place yesterday here at Sebring. You'll be seeing that race April 5th at 9 a.m. here on the Fox family of networks. Check it out. There is the Tequila Patron ESM machine, the only one. We understand the number 1 car has been officially withdrawn from the race. The number 2 stopped with some mechanical issues. It is back out on track right now, and Andrew Marriott is standing by with Ed Brown from Tequila Patron.
Ed Brown, you've got a problem, I believe, with the number 2 car.
Yeah, I tell you, we can't catch a break this season so far. You know, the crews work so hard, but it looks like we got a boost problem with the engine. Well, we're going to run it until it breaks, you know.
So are they able to adjust it at all?
We think there's a leak somewhere, so they checked it the last time in. So we need a yellow so we can do a little bit more work on it, but we'll see.
You must be looking forward, Ed, to the WEC and obviously start at Silverstone. It'll probably rain there.
Well, we're looking forward to get there, that's for sure. But, you know, it's been a tough season with the coupe that we had that failed, and then our crews have just really been working their tails off. They got to get these cars ready tonight to get shipped tomorrow. So it's been a long start of the season, and but we're looking forward to get over there.
Well done. It's a great campaign for Tequila Patron, and I hope you have a good season over in Europe and then subsequently Brazil and all those new places that you're going to go to.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
As Andrew mentioned, first round of the WEC Championships is at Silverstone. Actually, Ed and Scott Sharp are heading over there on Wednesday, going to do a test day in a Radical race car just to learn the circuit, get a few laps before they compete there in April.
Well, Ed Brown is running in a professional class as what we call a Pro-Am driver, but he has proven he belongs. And the pivotal moment came at the race at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca last year, where he started on the front row and led the field handily, mixing it up with the big boys. We'll be back to Sebring.
Well, after the last Continental Tire show of my terrible tennis game, I gave up that, and it was probably just time to move on and stick to racing. So it was kind of cool, you know. I grew up in, like, I used to tell people I kind of grew up in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, because I could go up to the factory and I'd drive everybody nuts because I'd stick my finger in the chocolate sauce and contaminate everything. But it's funny story. My dad, he closed the business probably 15 years ago now. And he refused to ever sell any of his recipes. And so he did the full Willy Wonka, where he closed the doors one day and said, I'm not selling, I'm not doing anything. And he still to this day has the original paper recipes that him and my grandfather made. I would definitely be Charlie. Yeah, because I was just the golden child, was my nickname for my mom and dad.
What a shot of Ryan Dial. And what a dream for a little boy to grow up in a family that runs a candy company. Nicely done. On board the number 10, Jordan Taylor is running 4th in the overall and the prototype class. Andrew Marriott is with his dad.
I certainly am. Are you the sleeper in this race? There you are, lurking in 4th place.
Well, you know, I mean, it's been a really rough weekend, you know, with all the brake issues that we've had. And literally up until the last 2 hours, we had no brakes. And these were all brand new components, 3 sets of brand new components. And we were out of things to do during the race. There's no way we were going to finish. So we took an old set of rotors from Daytona 24-hour, put them on. Now we don't have a brake problem. So something's wrong with the batch of brakes we've got.
Might be making a phone call or two on Monday, I think.
More than a phone call.
How do you see this race going? Do you think it'll come to you now?
I don't know. You know, Barbosa, Dixon. I mean, all of those top 4 cars are really, really fast. You know, it just depends where the traffic is. It depends on pit stops and strategy.
And you're counting how many laps everyone's doing, I suppose.
What was that?
You're counting how many laps everyone's doing.
Well, yeah, you know.
That was below the belt, wasn't it?
Well, it was all right. So, we're going to do the best we can.
Andrew obviously referring to the little faux pas that they had at the end of Daytona, where there's a rule in place where you're only allowed to do X amount of hours, and one of them is that you can't do any more than 4 out of 6 hour period, and people get locked into thinking, well, just don't do more than 4 straight. But what happened at Daytona, they changed their driver rotation. Jordan Taylor had been in, Max Angelelli had got in, and they decided rather than putting Ricky in to finish, they put Jordan back in. So if you think of the drive time as a sandwich, basically Jordan was the bread of the sandwich, and they had too much bread in that 6-hour sandwich.
That's
so
right.
They ran afoul of that. They made a pit stop to do a late driver change, but they'd already gone over the limit. The rule said you got to be DQ'd. They changed that. They kind of compromised on that ruling to give them a last place finish. So it was a big blow.
No question. You're going to change your driver rotation. You've got to check your driver log numbers for seat time. Now let's go to Brian, standing by with Cooper McNeil.
Cooper just climbed out of the number 22 WeatherTech Porsche. And Cooper, this team, you really go back to January, a good strong run at the Rolex 24, 2nd place finish. So fast here when you guys unloaded. How much confidence does that give you guys headed into the season, and especially an event like Sebring?
A fair amount of confidence. Anytime you finish on the podium in an endurance race, especially a 24-hour race, you earned a pat on the back by yourself. Yeah, the Alex Job WeatherTech guys have been doing really well here this weekend. We tested a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, I had class, so I couldn't make it. But Andrew and Lee got the car and set up really well and did a really good job. So we should have a good shot for the rest of the season.
What are we about to see as this weather's changing? You and I were just talking about, just in the last 15 minutes, the weather's cooled off, the clouds are coming in. What's that going to do to the race car?
Yeah, our WeatherTech Porsche is going to get even quicker than she already is. The ambient temp seems to be dropping, which means the track temp is going to be dropping, which means we're going to see some pretty quick times here coming up.
You guys were talking about how tall he is. Thank God he's sitting down on the wall right now. There's actually the same amount of Nomex in our 2 fire suits. His is just in the length, and mine's right around here in the middle, guys.
I didn't want to say anything to you, Brian. We're the same height when I'm sitting down, but...
Oh, Brian, you took the words out of my mouth. You took my joke away. Justin's back, by the way, Brian.
As the WeatherTech car goes by in the hands of Andrew Davis, check out the back bumper. Cooper is an upperclassman at the University of Colorado, and the decal of Ralphie, the mascot of CU, rides on the back of the car. It was a few years ago I saw Cooper and I said, "Where's your Ralphie?" There it is on the rear bumper and on the rear quarter panels. Go Buffs. Here comes the 01. Was there a driver change, or is Scott Dixon still behind the wheel? We'll wait for timing and scoring to tell us. Saw the leader lights in red, P2.
They've changed their rotation here because it went Joey, Scott Pruitt, Scott Dixon, and now it's Pruitt back behind the wheel. So I'm not sure if they're just strategizing in terms of who's going to finish this race out here tonight, but it's definitely Pruitt's gold leaf helmet that I could see inside the cockpit there. And this is the sort of performance that you expect from Ganassi. They don't have the sharpest knife in the fight here today, Justin, but they've just executed. Drivers haven't made any mistakes. They haven't overdriven the car even when it wasn't to their liking, haven't thrown it off the road, and they just keep ticking. And that's what it takes to win championships, and these guys have got a lot of them.
Yeah, but don't mistake that our viewers shouldn't mistake that your comment for that they don't have the punch when they need it. What's interesting, they adapt so well to the situation. As you say, they didn't have the outright pace for this race, so they adopt a different strategy where they just work their way, almost wear down the opposition by just being on the money. But when the time comes and they have the car for the track on that weekend, they're just lightning, they're electric, and then they demoralize the opposition with speed. So what a great tool chest they have.
I just got a tweet at Bob Varsha a few minutes ago in which someone said, I was away from the race for a few hours. I turned it back on, and there are the Ganassi boys running at the front. What switch did they flip in that 01? Hey, that's how you go about assembling the most distinguished recent record in sports car racing. Chip Ganassi Racing with Philip Savadas has won everything. We'll take a break and return to Sebring. Welcome back to Sebring in the 63rd running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, fueled by Fresh from Florida. Bob Varsha, Calvin Fish, and Justin Bell up top. Andrew Marriott and Brian Till down in the pit lane as we continue. The sun draws low to the horizon. Expect a terrific sunset here at Sebring. And they have beautiful ones. I don't know if it's the orange groves. That was Dan Gurney's theory when I spoke to him about these beautiful Sebring sunsets. We'll see what we get. There's Johannes van Overbeek going around in the number 2 Tequila Patron ESM ARX. You notice the leader lights were blank on the side of the car. Dashes not showing his position in class, which is currently 5th.
Snuck around the 10 car when they came out of the pit lane, but immediately with that boost issue that Ed Brown described, they just don't have the horsepower to be in the fight here. But they're going to soldier on, try and score some points here today. They're not doing the full championship. We expect them to test all rounds of the Patron Cup.
See the leader light system not working. I wonder if they have an electrical issue as well.
I didn't see much on the dash, just so you know, as they went down the straight. I'm not sure it was the light in my eyes, but I didn't see that. Oh, no, it is, sorry. But it didn't, must have just been off throttle.
You could see the shift lights.
Yeah.
That's about it.
But normally, can't you see something on the left under that Patrón sign on the left? Isn't there normally something showing there? Don't know.
The 5 is in the pits. Brian Till awaits him.
This car has looked so good all day long. You got to be impressed with the job that the drivers has done as well. Joao Barbosa, Christian Fittipaldi, and Sebastian Bourdais about to take over. Bourdais spent Monday and Tuesday of this week at Barber Motorsports Park at an IndyCar test. I asked him, how long does it take you to adapt? And he said, you just kind of have to reset, think about what it is that you're driving, and then get on with it. So impressive that that's exactly what they've done, whether it's Bourdais, whether it's Simon Pagenaud, or even Ryan Briscoe. These guys adapt quickly. That's why these teams run so strong.
The one thing I'm noticing is that these guys seem about 2 laps shy of what the 01 is doing on a full fuel load. So I think that was a 22 lap run for the 5 car, and I believe the 01 did a 24 lap run. So what they may have done there, they may be thinking about that 8-hour mark for the Patron Cup points and didn't want to risk a yellow coming out and getting caught out there. So they may have just played it safe, realized they could keep the lead, and brought him in without getting into that margin at all.
Let's go down the pit lane. Andrew is standing by with a member of Risi Competizioni. There's Giancarlo Fisichella in the race car. Andrew?
I'm with Andrea Bertolini. You're not really in the mix against the Corvettes and Porsches yet. You're expecting the race to come to you a little bit?
Yeah, you know, it's really tough. GTLM, we try to do like our best, but so we now we have a good car. I think, like always, Sebring will decide the result, the final result, just in the last half an hour of the race. So we try to save the car, to save our baby, to be ready for the last half an hour.
Now next year you'll have a new car. The 488 is coming, and it's a turbo V8. Just tell us, you've done a lot of the testing. You do the main testing for the GT program. Just tell us about the new car.
Yeah, we are 5-6 driver of the GT program, but now we have a 458 and we look forward. It's a still really strong car, really competitive, and now we'll see. Next year will be a new family of car, a new group of car with turbo engine, but we have a lot of to do. But now maximum focus on the 458.
Now you're also involved in the Formula One program, because in Grand Prix you're actually there in the Ferrari simulator between practice 1 and practice 2, and actually running in the simulator to help the team back at whichever circuit. So you're in Fiorano and all the information's coming backwards and forward. Explain what happens in the simulator.
Yeah, you know, like all the top team have a simulator, and in the racing weekend we work at the same time in the simulator. So sometime between free practice 1 and free practice 2, we test something of different, and we compare the data, and we check, we try to improve the car also between the session.
Ferrari seem to have a good Formula One car this year, not quite as quick as Mercedes, but certainly made a lot of progress.
No, we did a really strong step compared last year. We had a good car, but of course now Mercedes have an important gap in terms of performance. But we're still pushing, we push always to improve the car. We'll see during the season what's going on.
We'll see what's going on. Grazie, grazie.
All right, thanks, Andrew. From the 62 458 Italia GT Le Mans car to the 63 458 Italia GT Daytona car for Scuderia Corsa. And somebody you know pretty well, JB.
My brother from a different mother, Townsend Bell, and of course we have just come off the back. We've done about 8 episodes of Shut Up and Drive, and which you can see on Fox Sports 1. It's currently showing right now. We had an amazing shootout together, and you know, Townsend and I have really developed this amazing brand with Lexus and the Lexus RCF. Here you can see this is the new RCF 2015. This was us absolutely blowing this car around this track. We had so fast, it was so much fun. We use helicopters, we race each other. It's every guy's dream. What we do is we find a great road, we close it off, and we race each other against the clock. And I unfortunately have to confess that because Townsend is slightly dislocated in the brain when it comes to personal safety, look at that drop off the side. Remember, no helmets, no race suit, just 2 men with racing pedigrees going head-to-head in the most phenomenal car. This RCF, I got to tell you guys, has just been an absolute joy. The one thing I won't do is go in that helicopter. I just do not enjoy it. So Shut Up and Drive, look for it on FS1. We have had a great time, and I've got a little transition coming up. Townsend's obligations this year, literally too great for the rest of the year, so I will be appearing with a new co-star and a very worthy competitor in our next round. So look up Shut Up and Drive on Fox Sports 1.
Okay, where was that road?
Well, I'm just trying to remember right now, Bob. That's why I didn't bring it up.
Sorry,
It was a little bit difficult. No, we were up Northern California,
yeah.
and it's just well north of San Francisco, up on the coast. And I was trying to remember the name of the reservation. It was actually a military outpost all through since World War II, and about 20 years ago, they got it back from the military, and it's been reclaimed as a beautiful national park until we got there. So great fun. Thanks to Lexus. They've let us be hooligans on the road, and we love it.
Let's go down to Brian.
911 is in. Nick Tandy taking over right now from Richard Leitz, and this team has been spectacular with pit stops all day long. This looks like another good one. Just waiting on fuel now. Tandy will be driving one of the 919 hybrids at Le Mans this year, so a big pat on the back to him from Porsche as he heads back on track right now in his GT3 RSR.
Yeah, he's got a busy season ahead of him, Nick Tandy. He's also going to be doing an LMP2 program following Le Mans. And I think it's really in preparation for him to do a full WEC program in 2016.
Here's a look at our Porsche news and notes. That was a segue. 3 919 hybrids and 2 911 RSRs, like the one in which you ride right now, are confirmed for the 24 Hours of Le Mans coming up in June. The new Nissan LMP1, that radical design from the designer of the original Delta Wing car, Ben Bowlby, front engine, front wheel drive, set to debut at Le Mans. They push back the debut slightly while they work out the wrinkles. We expect to see it at Les Arts. Multimatic Motorsports in Canada will be building the new Ford GT that is expected to embark on an endurance program. And an additional headline that was made in an announcement just as this race began was that the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship and its sanctioning body IMSA have struck a new deal with the Automobile Club of the West, who organized the 24 Hours of Le Mans, to extend their agreement to advance the overall strategy of worldwide sports car racing for an additional 6 years, with new regulations coming up for the prototype and GTs in 2017. We'll be back to Sebring.
You'll find many automotive technology partners around the racetrack here at Sebring this weekend, each of them helping race teams out on track in their own unique way. And Mobil 1 is a great example of that. Not only have they lent their name to this iconic race for the past 20 years, but they're also the technology lubricant partner for some of the top cars out there, such as Corvette, Delta Wing, and Porsche. How does motor oil make a difference in endurance racing? Well, engineers from Mobil 1 Racing work closely with each race team to determine the precise lubricant packages for these cars to ensure they're operating at maximum efficiency without sacrificing engine reliability. Specifically, Porsche Motorsports has experienced its share of achievement here at Sebring during their nearly 2-decade-long partnership with Mobil 1. 17 manufacturer wins, 12 ALMS manufacturers, and 14 driver championships since 1999. Porsche has established an unrivaled standard of racing excellence. So the folks that actually make Mobil 1 use these very principles as their guide in how they engineer and perfect the motor oils that you and I use in our road cars every day of the week. It's also why the talented Porsche engineers and mechanics use Mobil 1 synthetic motor oil as their lubricant to get them through the grueling 12 hours of Sebring. But it's also the official factory pour on 22 Porsche models, and when you go to the dealership, this is what you'll get in your car.
And back to live action here at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, fueled by Fresh from Florida. Andrew Marriott is standing by with one of the GTD standouts.
It says there, P. Dempsey. Jan Halen, you're an imposter. Why are you wearing Patrick's race suit?
It's been so hot here today, so all the suits are wet. So since Patrick's not here, I hope he doesn't mind.
So you're driving with Madison Snow, and obviously you've got your Costa Rican newcomer. How's he getting on, by the way?
Yeah, everybody's just doing a great job. I mean, we're down a little bit on power. We had to go to the backup engineer for qualifying. So the ultimate pace, I don't think we have the ultimate pace here today, but man, the team, the drivers, everybody's doing such a good job. We've been running in the top 5 this whole race, so hopefully we can keep the car there and have a strong finish.
Well, you had a big career behind you in Formula 3000 and so on. Do you enjoy GT racing here?
I just love being here in the US. It's the reason I came here. I like the atmosphere. Met some really great people here, and lucky to be here with with Dempsey Wright Motorsport. It's become my home for the last 2 years, and really proud to be part of it.
Excellent. So he's not Patrick Dempsey, he's Jan Halen.
Yeah, well, I'm guessing Jan Halen's full of baloney on that. He's wearing Patrick's uniform to pick up chicks.
It'll probably work too. I just might throw that out there.
And Emilio Valverde, by the way, is the Central American replacement driver for Patrick Dempsey. So keep your cards and letters. Let's go to Brian Till.
Mike Rockefeller down here at the Spirit of Daytona. Visit Florida.com Corvette. And Mike, for you,
sit there and you guys are running a pace, it seems like. How long do you run that pace? When do you know that it's time to add that last tenth and go for the race win?
Well, unfortunately, you know, we went in the race and we didn't match the pace of the quickest cars. During the race, there were some periods where we were looking quite good. But at the end, I think what we can do is run on 100% all the race and then see where we end up. I mean, there's not much you can do. It's not like we are holding back. In traffic, I would say you take a little less risk than at the end of the race when you're fighting for position. But right now, it's really to stay where we are. I mean, Michael is losing a little bit of time, unfortunately, right now. But we have to see. I will be in the car after him, and still a long way to go. And I was happy to lead the race for almost one stint. Richard did a good job. So, yeah, I think overall we can be happy with P3 right now. But, of course, at the end, we want to win. That's why we're here.
How difficult is it? You don't drive these cars a lot. Certainly you drove it at the Rolex 24, but looking back at your background, prototypes, GT cars, DTM, is it just a little bit of each in one of these Daytona prototypes?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different car, for sure. Every car is different, but you have to get used to it. I think at the end, that's the challenge of a driver, and I always like to, you know, have this mixture. So I mean, it takes you a few laps, and then it's okay. Actually, the cars got better. I mean, the last time I really drove them for one season was, I think, 06 with the Ruby Tuesday car. And, well, they changed a lot. They are much better now. And I think it's good racing, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I enjoy it so much.
Mike Rockenfeller, one of the most humble champions you'll meet, but he'll be in the 90 a little bit later and certainly give it all.
He's one of the nicest guys you meet. I mean, despite all of his success, winning Le Mans, winning Daytona, DTM Championship back in 2013, Rocky doesn't change. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that even when he was in the big factory drives, he'd still talk to you like a mate, still talk to you with an open policy, and that was very refreshing because in our job, we need that level of communication with drivers, and you know, that's, I think, what's helped him have drives like this, because he's a joy to have around, and of course he's a pleasure to watch him drive.
Absolutely, a genuine guy. No schadenfreude, no hubris. In a business where you occasionally run across a lot of both. We'll take a break and return. More from Sebring coming up here on Fox Sports.